Redfield. Hiss. When Jabba yelled this name in Eternal Hell, not only a few people around Buggy, but even all the criminals in Eternal Hell took a mouthful of 24K pure oxygen. Obviously, there is not a big pirate here who doesn't know the name of this hot man. The man who formed a group by himself and was known as the Lonely Red Man. Barry Rock. Redfield. In that brilliant Roger era, a man who was on par with Roger Pirates, Whitebeard Pirates, and Golden Lion Pirates by himself. I'm stupid. What did I just hear? The name Jabba yelled, isn't it wrong? It's that man. It turns out that the old man named Barry Rock who chatted with Jabba before turned out to be the legendary Lonely Red. That's right. Barry Rock Redfield. Some people may dare to call Barry Rock Redfield that, but who dares to have the same name as Redfield? Didn't you expect that man to be in this eternal hell? No wonder that fellow Magellan never went to the deepest part to torture him. Didn't he dare? Ha ha ha. A legendary pirate like Roger is locked up here. What a tragedy of the times. Jabba, take me away too. I'm your long-lost friend. Even Buggy was shocked by the exposure of Redfield's identity. Before coming to Eternal Hell, I also thought about whether this Lonely Red really exists. But after thinking about it, this character seems to be fictionalized in the follow-up game, and it should be impossible. Moreover, let alone such a character, even if Roger came, he might not be able to recruit him. Otherwise, how could he be called the Lonely Red? And what Redfield said next was just as Buggy thought. The old voice came from the depths of Eternal Hell. Ha ha ha, forget it, Jabba. I'm used to seeing killing, I'm used to seeing the rotten world outside. What has changed in the past 800 years? What's the point of going out? Can it change the world? The outside world is boring, Jabba. Hearing Redfield's words, the other vicious criminals in Eternal Hell were all silent. You are noble. You are amazing. Good guy. All of us can't get out even if we want to go out, but this guy won't go out even if he has a chance? Should it be said that it is worthy of being the Lonely Red? Jabba frowned, and wanted to persuade, but was stopped by Buggy raising his hand. Then he looked at Buggy puzzled, but saw the corner of Buggy's mouth raised slightly to look at the slow opening deep in the Eternal Hell, and said something that made everyone feel inexplicable. I know the location of the bat fruit phantom beast. As soon as Buggy said this, the entire Eternal Hell was quiet for a few breaths. Immediately afterwards, the familiar voice suddenly came from the depths of Eternal Hell. This time the voice was a little bit more energetic. Jabba. Although the outside world is very boring, since you, an old friend, are so kindly invited, I am too embarrassed to refuse. Worth mentioning. Let me help you. Especially this Buggy Jr., who is so affectionate and righteous, won my heart. Although I'm old and don't have much combat power, it's still a no-brainer to help you stop an admiral. Stop an admiral? Hiss. Is what this old guy said true or false? Buggy was slightly startled, but no matter what, he knew that he had hit his G-spot with precision. This made him laugh secretly. Shao Mian, I still can't handle you anymore. Lonely Red, get da Z. After listening to Redfield's words, Jabba gritted his teeth and roared. You better help me. Redfield, you bastard. Ha ha ha. Jabba, come and help me unlock it. My old friend is in trouble. How can I not help with all my strength? The sonorous and powerful words of Lonely Red came from the depths of the prison. This old guy. Jabba didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But he didn't reply to the other party immediately. After all, it was Buggy who was talking now, and he couldn't do it for him, so he turned his head and looked at Buggy on the side. Buggy grinned. Mr. Jabba, since Senior Redfield is so generous, we can't refuse his kindness. After this battle, I will definitely inform Senior of the detailed location of the bat fruit. A few minutes later, Buggy saw the Redfield that he remembered. A head of long white hair hangs behind her back, with two braids hanging on her shoulders. Sharp eyes, evil smile, 3 meters tall, tisk. Pirate's top battle strength is almost 3 meters per capita. It's off the charts. Originally, Buggy thought that he would be very tall after getting the Gildart's template at the beginning of the game. Now, when he saw the new partners, they were all 2 or 3 meters tall. The even more outrageous Murloc Sunbell is more than 4 meters tall. Even Jinbei is only 3 meters long. They grew up taking hormones one by one, right? Buggy complained secretly, then turned to look at Ivankov with a smile. Ivan Sauce, now that we are all together, what do you think is the most convenient way to go out? Swish. After hearing Buggy's words, the others also turned their attention to Ivankov. I have to say that being watched by so many powerful people, even Ivankov is under great pressure. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said tentatively. How about taking the elevator? Well, I mean, the method you used before, Buggy Boy, is more convenient. After all, the elevator can't hold all of us. Snapped. Buggy snapped his fingers. Then do it. Brothers, get ready to go. While speaking, Buggy's hands glowed with white light, and then turned into a beam of light and shot towards the open space in front of him. Rumble. In the next moment, the countless masonry ground instantly disintegrated into countless tiny broken stones. Snapped. As Buggy clapped his hands together, he came up with whatever he wanted. A huge round stone with a diameter of hundreds of meters floated into the air. Immediately, Buggy flew up with Luffy in one hand and Ivan in the other. Whoosh whoosh. Immediately afterwards, others followed suit. And just when Buggy was about to steer the huge slab to take off, in a corner of the prison below, a loud and weak voice sounded with a hint of urgency. Well, can you bring me one too? Actually, in fact, I should be good at injections too. As long as it can feed me, don't give me injections. This abrupt sound was like a loudspeaker was placed in the 6th floor eternal hell, and the vibration made people's eardrums ache. Everyone who stood on the stone slab and heard the voice couldn't help showing surprise. Undoubtedly, those locked in this eternal hell are all big pirates, or they are extremely powerful existences. How could there be such a weak and weird existence? Even none of them had heard this man's voice before. Coupled with Buggy's conscious choice before, the big pirates who had been begging him before had completely given up begging. Logically speaking, by this time, there should be no one who would say such unwise things. The main reason is that these words are as childish as a child's, which makes people even more puzzled. Almost subconsciously, the observation hockey of Buggy, Redfield, Jabba and others swept across the eternal hell at the same time, and finally locked in a huge cell in the corner of the 6th floor. This cell looks at least 200 meters high. But the prisoner locked inside was the same size as an ordinary person, and he was more than 10 centimeters taller than Luffy, who was disabled at the 3rd level. It's about 1.8 meters, it's just that this guy has grown a little fatter. Especially now that his whole body is wrapped into a rice dumpling by more than a dozen arm-thick seastone chains, it looks like he has a cute feeling. Who is this guy? Buggy turned to look at Jabba in doubt, and Jabba turned to look at Redfield. Seeing the eyes of the two of them, the latter frowned and said slowly. My impression of this guy is that in the past, government staff often came to draw his blood. But in the past 2 years, no one has come. As for his name, I don't know either. However, Kaido is the only one who can be locked up here and has been taken care of by the government for several years. Tisk. Kaido, that kid. See what this says. It can only be said that a big boss with a high seniority is amazing. After hearing that he is often taken care of by the government, and the guy was a little afraid of injections just now, maybe he is an experiment subject of the government? Especially since this guy is still locked in such a huge cage, it's not like the treatment that normal pirates should have at all. Thinking of this, Buggy looked in that direction and said, May I have your name? After hearing Buggy's words, the loud voice said in a weak tone. My name is, my mother calls me San Juan Bad Wolf. Well, I haven't seen my mother for a long time. Good guy. Huge battleship. The paramecia in the Blackbeard team? The ability to expand the fruit? Buggy's eyes lit up, and then he flew out of the stone slab with a whoosh, flying towards the huge cage deep in the eternal hell. Bang bang bang. Seeing Buggy's move, Redfield, Bullet and Jabba hesitated for a few seconds and followed Buggy on Moonwalk. They were also very curious about what happened to this guy named San Juan Bad Wolf. After all, they all saw the huge cell in the corner of eternal hell just now. They hadn't noticed such a strange cell before. Since the cells are so strange, the prisoners locked in them must not be simple. You must know that even giant criminals do not have such a large cell. Russell. Immediately afterwards, Crocodile also flew up and headed over there. Seeing them all flying away in the air, Luffy standing on the slate scratched his heart and lamented. Hey, Ivan Chan, and they can fly, the same moves as those guys who captured Robin. But aren't they pirates? Why can they use the moves of those black suits? Ivankov froze for a moment, then realized what Luffy was talking about, and smiled immediately. That's Marine 6 styles. You said that the group of black suits who captured Robin should be agents of the government's CP agency. They know 6 styles and it's normal. This move is no secret to the top powerhouses. Your grandpa, your old man can do it. Hey, it's amazing. Luffy's eyeballs and tongue protruded, then scratched his head and said. Then why didn't my grandfather teach me? Boom. Mr. 3 on one side couldn't stand it anymore. He punched Luffy on the head and shouted. Stupid. That's Marine 6 styles. You didn't join Marine. How could your grandpa teach you? Hey. Is that so? Luffy was shocked again. But after I fought with them, I also learned one of the moves of those guys, that is, disappearing with a whoosh, and then reappearing. Hey. This time it was Mr. 3 and Mr. 2 turn to be shocked. Don't talk about Luffy, they chatted a little here. Buggy and the others also came to the huge cell at the corner of Eternal Hell at this time. I have to say that there is a difference between seeing it with your own eyes and feeling it with your knowledge. A prison cell 200 meters high. For one reason, it is really shocking at close range. Now that he knew who the other party was, Buggy didn't hesitate, and put his hands on the huge seastone cell tens of centimeters, and then shouted. Comprehensive decomposition. Hum. A huge white light of tens of meters flashed, and the huge seastone gate, bang, turned into countless tiny fragments, which fell directly on the ground like rain. Okay. So amazing. The San Juan wolf inside exclaimed when they saw this scene. Not only him, but the Redfields who followed behind also had serious expressions on their faces. Buggy's terrifying ability is completely different from the chop chop fruit in their impression. Could this be the power after awakening? I'll call you Juan from now on. Why were you arrested? Buggy made a seemingly random opening as he walked towards the San Juan wolf. As a modern person, although he is not a saint, he really doesn't like it if he is teamed up with that kind of murderous guy. Just as he thought of this, the San Juan wolf said doubtfully. I don't know. One day I was playing at the beach, and then someone told me that I was sick and wanted to take me for treatment, and then I kept getting injections, and then one day I ran away. I ate a fruit that can make me bigger. After that, I was beaten by them, and then I was caught here. It's been a long time, and I've already forgotten a little. Buggy's eyes were fixed. Why is this plot so familiar? Isn't Geisa and Doflamingo those bastards doing a good job? Has the giant core plan been there so early? In his impression, the San Juan wolf is nearly 100 years old. But it doesn't matter. Buggy cast the shattering magic casually, shattering all the sea stones on Juan's body, and then smiled and said. Okay, I see, you can hang out with me Buggy from now on. Not only will no one give you an injection, but food and shelter will also be included. How? Food and lodging. Oh, board and lodging. That's awesome. Mrs. Buggy, you're such a nice guy. The San Juan wolf yelled excitedly and jumped up and down like a child. Call out. Then, under the shocked eyes of Redfield and others, he quickly swelled up, and he became a 180-meter child in a few breaths. San Juan wolf, the 4th floor of the deep sea prison, blazing hell. Dark water. A painful low growl sounded, and a huge cloud of black air burst out from the ugly man with only a few teeth left in his mouth, and then the black air swept across the bodies of several people lying in the purple liquid. Chi chi chi. After the cloud of black air swept away, the purple smoking liquid also disappeared completely. Plop. Ha ha. Immediately afterwards, the man lay sprawled on the ground and began to gasp for breath. At the same time, grinning his rotten teeth, he looked at the opposite man in the uniform of a warden with a long knife on his waist and said with a smile. Gee ha 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 ha. Shiryu is thanks to you this time, otherwise he would really have fallen for that fellow Magellan. Damn, is that guy a monster? These venoms are also terrible. Hiss. Shiryu took a puff of his cigar and said with a smile. Teach, who do you think you are facing? He is the strongest warden, Magellan. The man who can suppress eternal hell. If you rush forward without knowing any information, will there be no problems? At this time, the few people lying on the 4th floor of the deep sea prison are exactly the Blackbeard group who sneaked into the prison under the name of Shichibukai. After listening to what Shiryu said, Blackbeard didn't refute, but just grinned. Gia ha 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 ha, you were right, this time I was careless. After speaking, he glanced at the few people who were still lying on their stomachs and shouted. Hey, I told you how long you guys are going to sleep, get up. Get ready to implement our crazy plan. After Blackbeard finished yelling, the people lying on the ground and a horse reluctantly wriggled and stood up. Captain, can't I sleep a little longer? Captain. Strong, stand up. It seems that fate is still on our side today. I really didn't sleep well this time, can't you let me sleep more? Hey. Law. Seeing the appearance of these crew members, Blackbeard turned black and said. You guys, it's Lousy who gets hurt the most, right? We're going to do big things next, so cheer up, bastard. But before anyone else could speak, Shiryu of the Rain suddenly said. Teach, I'm afraid you won't be able to do this important matter for a while. My suggestion is to take advantage of the chaos and leave Impertin. What? Blackbeard looked at Shiryu in astonishment and said. Shiryu, you also know the real purpose of my coming here. This has not been achieved yet. How can I leave, you bastard? Someone has reached eternal hell ahead of you. Shiryu said solemnly. Before the 6th floor, several powerful conquerors' hockey burst out, and there was even the sound of fighting. I'm close to the 6th floor, so I found it earlier. Even if that guy Magellan found out a little later, he probably noticed it. With his personality, he wouldn't be silent. If he hasn't acted yet, it is possible that he is not sure how to solve the current situation. So, he is now either begging for help from naval headquarters or the government. Impleton will soon be messed up too, Nani. After listening to Shiryu's words, not only Blackbeard, but also the other lazy people stared wide-eyed in shock. Has someone freed the prisoners from eternal hell? Good guy. Who is so desperate? Blackbeard felt as though his luck had been robbed right now. The others were also shocked. You must know that when Blackbeard first proposed this plan, they all thought their captain was crazy, but they didn't expect that there would be someone crazier than him. Who is it? Blackbeard growled in shock. Who the hell? Call. Shiryu of the Rain slowly exhaled a puff of smoke ring, stared at the few people and said. Clown Buggy. Blackbeard. The air fell into an eerie silence for a while. On the other side, the lobby on the 1st floor of Impertinence C. At this moment in the hall, there are already hundreds of people fully armed guarding the gate. Nearly 100 cannons were facing the exit of the elevator on the 1st floor. Magellan, Hanayabao, Sadi-chan, Domino and others stand behind the cannon. Minotaurus, Mino Koala, Mino Rhinoceros, Mino Madara Horse and other zone ability users stood behind the three of them, waiting for them one by one. Hanayabao, who was standing next to Magellan, glanced at the latter and whispered. The director let the prisoner escape from the eternal hell this time. Is this a big mistake? That is to say, this time the director may be dismissed. Then I will be promoted to the director? Before Magellan could speak, Sadi-chan on the other side laughed coquettishly. Deputy Director Hanayabao, your voice is too loud. I heard all your calculations, bastard. Ha. Angrily, Magellan raised his hand and punched Hanayabao on the head and gave him a breath. Ah. The director released poison gas. Ah no, I'm going to die. Hanayabao fell to the ground covering his mouth. Snapped. Snapped. Magellan clapped his hands proudly. If you want to be the director, you should be more tender. Hanayabao lying on the ground said in pain, Director, are we really not waiting for the government to arrive first? Magellan suddenly stared at the exit of the elevator on the 1st floor with a solemn expression, and said solemnly. I want to too, but it's too late, Hanayabao, don't die, only you can do my position as director, poison channel. In the end, Magellan's whole body swelled up, covered with purple venom, and then rushed towards the elevator exit ahead. A few minutes ago, the 6th floor of eternal hell. At first, everyone else was taken aback by the ability of the San Juan wolf. It expanded to 100 meters in a few breaths. Should it be called the swollen fruit of Paramecia? Fortunately, this guy can shrink, otherwise Buggy doesn't know how to fly this guy. This time, after getting ready, there were no accidents. Buggy directly used the ability of decomposition control to control the huge stone slab carrying hundreds of people and flew up, directly rushing towards the top of eternal hell. Boom boom boom. With the awakening ability combined with smashing magic and chopped fruit, Buggy completely ignored the thick and hard ground of Impleton and smashed several layers of the prison floor all the way up. Feel the changes in the surrounding air, so that everyone standing on the slate has a sense of sight from hell to heaven. The last floor. Ivan and Luffy shouted excitedly. Break down. With the last sound of Buggy falling, the floor separating the 1st floor above C and the 1st basement of Crimson Hell was instantly shattered. Boom. Almost at the same time, a pleasant reminder sounded in Buggy's mind, and at the same time, a blue light curtain popped out. Ding. Congratulations, you have successfully changed the plot and become the first one to release the Eternal Hell prisoners in the Deep Sea Prison and lead them to escape, and you will be rewarded. Advanced Armament Hockey Emission. Whoosh. In the next moment, Buggy charged up with a huge round stone slab, and at the same time, Redfield's dignified voice sounded. Careful. Give it to me. Almost at the same time, after absorbing the rewards, Buggy stared at Magellan who flew across the sky like a long purple dragon, and his smile became more calm. Magellan? That's fine. Let me use your blood to announce to the world the arrival of the Clown King. After saying that, Buggy flew in the air and punched the charging Magellan. Breaking evil and showing righteousness one day. Don't be so crazy, Buggy the Clown. I'm going to put you all back in jail, Dragon. In the next instant, two figures, one blue and one purple, collided with the air. Boom. Ha ha. As the figures of Buggy and Magellan collided in midair, there was a sudden explosion, and at the same time, strong airwaves rolled around. The two stagnated in the air for about a second or so, and Magellan's huge body wrapped in purple venom was like a shooting star, flying backwards faster than when it came. Puff. Wow. At the same time, Magellan, who flew upside down, spat out a mouthful of blood in the air, splashing purple venom in all directions. Boom. Zzz. In an instant, Magellan's huge body smashed into the array of cannons, directly smashing down a dozen cannons in the middle, and plowed a ravine of more than 10 meters on the ground. The director is messing with me, crying voice. Seeing this scene, Hannibal and others in the rear exclaimed in worry, but their behavior was contrary to their exclamation, and everyone almost subconsciously retreated backward for more than 10 meters. Magellan, who was lying on the ground, saw this scene and immediately cursed. You damn fellows. No one came up to help me. Didn't you see the director fall? Excuse me. 10 meters away, Hannibal bowed to Magellan, then raised his right fist and shouted. Director. Come on. Director. Come on. A group of jailers behind also brandished their weapons and shouted. Director. Come on. Director. Come on. Director. Come on. Seeing this, Magellan coughed out a mouthful of blood, stood up while clutching his heart, and cursed. You bastards, sooner or later I will kill you. After finishing, he turned his head to look at Buggy opposite. Outside of Buggy's glowing right fist, a layer of gorgeous airflow like flowing sakura flowers is surging. Seeing this, Magellan's pupils shrank suddenly and said in a deep voice. Senior armament hockey emission, is even the armed color so scary? Clown Buggy, you guys hide too deep, don't you? What kind of ambition do you have? Forget it, I will torture you after I take you down. While speaking, the purple layer of liquid around Magellan's body has gradually turned black, and then gradually turned red again. At the same time his voice sounded, Hannibal, you back out of the gate. Lock the gate, if I don't go out, then you follow the final plan, don't be reckless. Hannibal, who had always been acting obscenely, changed his previous appearance this time, and said solemnly. Director, what nonsense are you talking about? We have no way out. Where can I escape? Look at the bunch of guys behind Buggy the Clown. I, Hannibal, swear to live and die with the director. With Hannibal's last roar, countless guards behind him roared angrily. Swear to live and die with the director. Swear to live and die with the director. Swear to live and die with the director. Magellan froze, then roared. You bastards. You can't disobey. I don't care about you. Seeing this scene, Buggy and his group in the rear all looked at each other in blank dismay. Luffy even hugged Bon Clay and cried bitterly. These guys are so touching. Why do I feel like we are the villains, Uncle Buggy? Buggy punched Luffy's head with a backhand and cursed with a smile. GGGG, nephew Luffy, have you forgotten? We are pirates. Pirates are born to be villains. Luffy, who was howling, was stunned. Hey, that's right. Buggy was a little speechless to these nervous people. When Jabba and Redfield saw the performance of everyone in Imperton, they also showed appreciation in their eyes. Obviously Magellan and the others also knew that it was impossible to stop them with him alone, and now they could only fight to the death. Noisy. However, when they lamented the spirit of everyone in Impel Down, Buggy sneered and stared. A fierce conqueror's hockey swept forward instantly with purple-black lightning. Hum. Ha ha. Purple-black lightning was like a strong wind, sweeping across thousands of jailers and cadres Impel Down ahead in the blink of an eye. Just in a breath, the jailers who raised their weapons and yelled before rolled their eyes and fell to the ground one by one. Plop plop plop. Seeing this scene, Magellan yelled in shock and anger. Buggy the Clown. Gululu. At the same time, the thick layer of venom around Magellan's body rolled like boiling water, and the purple layer of venom quickly turned black and then turned red. Seeing Magellan's astonishing momentum, Buggy didn't panic at all, and even snapped his fingers and said, Mr. Duolingo, send that group of people a warship, it's too much trouble for them to stay here. Hearing Buggy's words, Duolingo was taken aback for a moment, and immediately understood what Buggy meant, and couldn't help showing a smile, spreading 6 pairs of black wings and rushing towards the group of fallen people. Woo woo woo. With Duolingo's 6 pairs of black wings flapping, a gust of wind blew out of nowhere on Impleton's first floor. The strong wind pressure directly blew the group of people who fell asleep on the ground into the air, and flew towards a large warship in the port outside.
Did you not want the aftermath of the battle to affect this group of people?
Jabba and his group in the rear also smiled when they saw this scene. They looked at each other, and they were a little more determined to follow Buggy. Magellan, who originally wanted to stop him, just raised his hand after seeing this scene, but put it down again, allowing Duolingo to pass by him. At the same time, Magellan turned to stare at Buggy and said coldly, "Buggy the clown, don't expect me to appreciate you. Today, in the name of Warden Impleton, I will also detain you again." Poison Giant. Hell Judgment. Seeing Magellan swelled tens of meters and turned into a huge red skull, everyone behind was shocked. "You are very strong, and the fruit ability is stronger, but it is useless to me." But Buggy rushed towards Magellan without any scruples, and then, under the astonished gaze of the other party, showed a weird smile that is the clown's signature. "Magellan, have you ever felt Ling Chi's pain? Bring it on. Feel the pain. Understand the pain. Feel the pain." While speaking, Buggy crossed the sky, turned his body slightly, raised his right hand with a white light, and lightly grasped the red poisonous waves that were dozens of meters high and swept towards him. "Smash Magellan. Smash it. Magellan. ZZZ." As Buggy's voice fell, countless fine white lights shot out from his right hand protruding sideways. These white lights pierced through the sea of blood in the blink of an eye, and nailed the red skull tens of meters high to the rock on the first floor of Imperton. On the wall. Puff. In the next moment, as if the breeze had burst the bubbles of the Sabodi archipelago, the monstrous sea of blood in the red skull collapsed like bubbles in the blink of an eye, and disappeared into dust in a few breaths. Nani. After seeing this scene, Jabba and the others widened their eyes in horror. They never expected that Buggy's fruit ability would be so terrifying. That is Magellan after fruit awakening. That terrible poison that seems to come from hell will be wiped out in an instant. Is this the power that Buggy has been hiding all along? The cigar in Crocodile's mouth was hanging on the ground, and he was shocked. This man is really terrible, King Clown Buggy. Perhaps only this name is worthy of you. Bullet also stared wide-eyed, and his heart trembled endlessly. Is this power ability still above awakening? How? Is it possible? My poison. Ah. Magellan also looked dumbfounded, and the next moment his screams rang out in the hall on the first floor of Imperton. Everyone looked subconsciously, and saw that Magellan seemed to have been cut into thousands of knives, and countless blood arrows sprayed out. The scene was extremely miserable. Hiss. Seeing such a murderous scene, coupled with Magellan's miserable screams, Jabba and the others couldn't help but take a breath of the cool sea breeze to calm down. At the same time, a mirror made of condensed water on the corner of the first floor of Impleton quietly collapsed at this moment. There were also a few vague exclamations coming from the opposite side of the water mirror. But right now, no one cared about what happened in the corner. Only Redfield glanced out of the corner of his eye, and then ignored it, and then set his gaze in front of Magellan. So at this moment, Buggy's figure suddenly appeared there. Regardless of the screaming Magellan, the blood and venom spattered were turned into dust by what looked like a white energy shield less than 1 meter away from Buggy. At the same time, Buggy's voice rang in Magellan's ear. "It's over, Magellan." The moment the screaming Magellan heard Buggy's voice, a flash of determination flashed across his eyes, and he suddenly erupted, regaining his peak combat power, and the bloody venom all over his body instantly covered himself and Buggy, and at the same time, a roar sounded. "Buggy the clown, you're being careless. Just because you want to be king? Do not make jokes. Judgment from hell, devoured by venom." Ha ha. Seeing the thick blood-colored venom coming towards him, Buggy just stood there casually, as if he had been frightened stupid. "Captain Buggy. Uncle Buggy. Buggy boy. Get out of the way. You can't even touch that guy's poison. Damn it. Are you still too young? Barry Rock, make a move. Who are you underestimating? If that guy is so weak, do you think he'll follow him, Jabba?"
Seeing this sudden scene, an anxious exclamation sounded from behind.
Hearing the sound from behind, Buggy still didn't move. Instead, he put his hands in his pockets. The cloak behind him let it flutter in the wind, and his long blue ponytail fluttered like a dragon. Immediately, everyone saw a wanton smile on his clown makeup, and Magellan, who was looking straight ahead, slowly uttered 2 words. "Useless." Scoff. As if to confirm Buggy's words, The blood-colored venom that wrapped him in an instant was turned into dust and dissipated by the thing that looked like a platinum energy shield less than 1 meter away from Buggy's body. Just in the breath, all these blood-colored venoms are scattered like specks of dust. No way, absolutely no way. You can't be that Buggy clown, I know. No way. Even Magellan could no longer be calm at this moment, and roared unwillingly. What a pity, that was your delusion, Magellan. The Buggy the clown as you first knew it didn't exist in the first place. The corner of Buggy's mouth raised to look at the crazy Magellan. He lightly clenched his right hand. A burst of blue-purple emission accompanied by white light surged between his fists, and when the words fell, he punched Magellan's chest. Cracking evil and showing righteousness, one day emission. Boom. In the next moment, Magellan's chest was sunken, blood was sprayed from the mouth, and his figure flew upside down like a shell for hundreds of meters, smashing through the side of the large warship, and then piercing through the deck with a boom, breaking a mast, then fly upside down again. Boom. With the last bang, Magellan's 4-meter-high body sank into the huge mainmast and passed out completely. Pirate, Clown Emperor Buggy versus Impelled Down Warden, Magellan, Buggy wins. Shock. Seeing this scene, everyone behind was completely shocked. Magellan has used his terrifying poisonous abilities over the years to take down the big criminals in eternal hell, and it never hurts. Every time it ends with the criminal begging for mercy. Was such a powerful man so easily solved by Buggy? Too strong, too scary. Even Redfield, Jabba and the others were a little shocked by Buggy's current strength. You must know that what Buggy shows now is only the fruit ability and the strength on armament hockey. How much more did they know about this man? Redfield and Jabba looked at each other, almost the same meaning flashed in their eyes. It's so similar. Snapped. Buggy put his left hand in his pocket, raised his right hand and snapped his fingers. After waking up the shocked crowd, he raised his hand to stroke his overhanging hair, and walked out of the impel-down prison gate facing the reflected sunlight. Immediately afterwards, Hockey's voice from Buggy came from the front. Although there is a battlefield ahead, you don't have to hesitate. No matter what happens, as long as we walk hand in hand, we will be invincible in front of us. As soon as Buggy said this, after a few seconds of silence, there was a burst of appalling cheers from behind. Wow. Ooh, Captain Buggy, tie pants are hot. That incomparably powerful Magellan was killed by Buggy so easily. How deep is this man hiding? It's terrible. Buggy. Buggy. My Buggy boy. Follow me to the kingdom of Kamabaka. Hissing, stick out tongue. He. This guy's words are really scary. Even an old guy like me feels a little excited. But, Jabba, don't you think he is really too similar? Ha. Ryder. What are you talking about? Why can't I understand? Buggy. Is this your spirit? You are indeed a man who can convince my crocodile. At this time the corner of the first floor of Imperton snapped. Another water mirror shattered. Opposite the water mirror, that is, Blackbeard and his party in the 5th layer of ice hell, their eyes widened in shock at this time. As that? A guy, really? Buggy the clown? Captain, you've been on the Whitebeard, you must have fought him. What was that guy like? Why ha. What a scary guy. Wushang defeated Magellan. What exactly is his fruit ability? Paramecia chop fruit. Even if he is awakened, Magellan is also awakened. Can this fruit's ability be so different? Swish. At this moment, everyone looked at Blackbeard, and there was a trace of cold sweat on Blackbeard's forehead, and at the same time, there was a look of surprise in his eyes. Gia ha. No matter what ambition or strength the clown Buggy has, he can't stop our plan. If he is not sensible, I don't mind taking his fruit. Before that, let's take a look at the 6th floor. On one side, Shiryu of the Rain did not give Blackbeard face, and directly exposed him. Hey, is it that difficult to admit that others are better than you can bear? You actually talked about running away so fresh and refined. The old story was exposed, and Blackbeard yelled at Shiryu angrily. Bastard Shiryu. I am the captain. Don't be too much you guy. I also want to save face. Hey. Snort. After yelling, Blackbeard strode forward with a dark face, leaving behind a few laughing people and corpses all over the floor. At the same time, a medium-sized marine warship was rapidly heading towards impelled down through the waves. On the bow of the boat, a woman with short blonde hair, wearing a white cloak, a white tight-fitting hip skirt, white knee-length stockings, and a pair of white high-heeled shoes looked ahead with one hand on her hips and a pergola with the other. At the same time, her pink lips parted slightly. Gabriel, go and see if those guys are still honest. Pull them out to get some air, they've been locked up for a few days, don't suffocate them to death. Don't tell me anything, Stussy. Behind Stussy, a man who was also wearing a white cloak and a white suit, was more than 4 meters tall, and wore a red-faced mask with an afro-haired man growled at Stussy's back, then turned and entered the cabin. After a while, there was movement at the cabin door. A man in the same white suit as them came out of the cabin with a white mask and hat stretched out, yawned and said, "Stussy, are you okay for us to bring these bastards over here? It's just CP9 who failed a few missions and wanted to defect, wouldn't it be good to just kill them? Still wasting time with this journey." Gabriel, who was more than 4 meters tall, roared in a low voice. "Exactly. We still need to waste our energy to take care of them. After a fight, these guys might fall into the sea to feed the fish." Stussy rolled his eyes, stood on the fort, turned around, pointed at them with one hand on his hips and scolded. "You know it's a waste of energy. Why are there only a few of us in CP0 until today? Gabriel and Icebear, don't you two have any points in your mind? The few companions who finally came in were all killed by you. Terrible teammates, why are you so cruel?" That Gabriel growled again at Stussy. "You still have the nerve to say that if it weren't for you, Foz Fao, one of Kaido's 6 flying bags, would be one of the new members. He is a 6-style genius, and I am afraid that only Rob Lucci can stand shoulder to shoulder with him. You guys sent people to the Red Hair, didn't you tell him to court death?" Huh. Hearing this, Stussy shook his head and stared at Gabriel in denial. "That's not what people did. What a shameless woman, can you be reasonable?" Gabriel roared. The white bear on one side said speechlessly, "Gabriel, why do you want to argue with this woman? Okay. Stussy, why did you ask us to bring them out? I don't think it's useless to keep it. The guy with the fruit of the door hasn't appeared yet, which proves that he really escaped by himself. To be honest, the potential of these zones is just that. It's better to kill them. I'm really too lazy to cultivate them." Hearing this, Stussy didn't speak, but turned to look at Rob Lucci and the others lying on the deck. Impel down, the deep-sea prison port. A group of people walking out of the prison gate opened their arms and shouted excitedly. "Ah! The long-lost air on the sea, it's been decades. Ha 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 ha, great. My Duolingo is back. Oh. The seawater outside Impel Down is really comfortable. I've been locked up for more than 10 years, and the shark skin on my body is wrinkled. Oh, your name is Jinbei, right? You're pretty good. Senior Sunbell, you are the real Murloc karate master. What a delicious air, is this the breath of freedom?" Standing on the deck of a large warship, Buggy looked at the people below with his arms around his arms, and the corner of his mouth curled up. "Guys, stop sighing and get on board. Now the war has started, and it is time for us to fire the first shot in the world." Ooh. Hearing Buggy's words, the crowd below roared wildly. Immediately, Redfield, Jabba, Bullet, Duolingo, Sunbell, and Ivan and Luffy all boarded the large warship. After seeing everyone coming up, Buggy stood at the bow and looked at the crowd below and shouted, "Come on, guys, head to the battlefield." Oh. Everyone stood up and drank. Jinbei is at the helm, Sunbell is at the helm, and Duolingo is at the helm to drive the large warship along the current towards Marineford. Before leaving, Buggy also asked Duolingo to use his Fallen Angel ability to make the medium-sized warship carrying Impel Down's people follow the ocean current to another direction, which is Eni's Lobby, one of the 3 ocean currents in Impel Down. I have to say that this time Buggy formed a team to go to Summit War that is much stronger than in the original plot. Although Redfield is 60 or 70 years old, since the other party said he could help stop an admiral, he must not be talking nonsense. Jabba is 50 years old and is also a quasi-admiral. And he's a bigger threat than Magellan in some ways. Because Jabba is based on body and axe skills, armament hockey is extra powerful. It can be said that he is the most armed person in the Roger Pirates except Roger. After that is Duolingo. Although he is not as powerful as Bullet, the awakening of his Phantom Beast Fallen Angel form is also a kind of, no, it should be said, several strange and terrifying abilities. One of Duolingo's previously shown ability to manipulate the wind. In terms of Bullet, Buggy thinks that his strength should be stronger than that of Duolingo. Although the fruit ability is inferior, hockey and physical skills are better. Especially since Bullet also mastered the Conqueror's hockey. Absolute imperial combat power in the future. Then came the power of the sea, the Murloc Karate Master, the 2-colored hockey and the extremely powerful shark Murloc Sunbell. His strength is somewhat stronger than Jinbei, the undisputed overlord of the sea. The above-mentioned people are all the Roger legacy, inherited by Buggy with the purpose of rescuing Ace as a former member of the Roger Pirates. They don't say that they can take all of them after the Summit War, at least they can take half of it. Even so, one by one is enough Buggy to form the Four Emperors Regiment. Especially in addition to these people, Buggy also invited Jinbei, Crocodile, and the San Juan Wolf. The strength of this guy is at least the elite Vice Admiral going up. As far as the San Juan Wolf is 180 meters tall, its destructive power is extremely terrifying. That is to say, in Buggy's team, including him, there are at least 2 Admiral-level combatants, 3 Quasi-Admiral-level combatants, and several elite Vice Admiral-level combatants. After such a calculation, even Buggy couldn't help but take a deep breath. Just as he was calculating the strength of his team here, Duolingo's voice came from the sky. An enemy ship was found ahead. It is a medium-sized warship. Although there is no marine on it, there are 3 men in white suits. They are suspected to be government reinforcements. On top of CP-0 warships. At this moment, Gabriel, who was lying on the deck chair leisurely and closed his eyes, suddenly heard the anxious exclamation of the navigator agent. Master Gabriel, a large marine warship has been spotted ahead, and there are thousands of people in it. Should we avoid it temporarily? Avoid. Hearing this, Gabriel, who was still resting with his eyes closed, suddenly jumped up and growled. Who do you think Lousy is? Give me the boat. Yes. The navigator was taken aback, and immediately went to work obediently. Soon, the medium-sized warship began to approach the large warship a few nautical miles ahead. And the large warship on the opposite side also didn't mean to stop. Neither warship had the slightest intention of avoiding the other. At this time, Stussy and Icebear, who were resting in the cabin, also came out. Stussy builds a pergola. Oh? Gabriel, did you discover the enemy's situation? White Bear was surprised and said, Huh? A large warship? It's coming from the direction of Impel Down? Could it be that those guys really managed to escape from prison? It looks like it really is, Magellan's trash. Gabriel on the side walked over indifferently and said, It doesn't matter, I will make a move. The two of them acted very relaxed on the deck, and even chatted to see who solved the most prisoners after a while. But the smile on the delicate face of Stussy, who was holding a pergola in front of the bow, gradually disappeared, until she saw the figures appearing on the bow of the large warship. Her smile froze immediately. After being stiff for a second, Stussy's face twisted and he roared at Gabriel. Will you shoot, you Gabriel? Navigator, turn around for my old lady, run. You idiots, don't you only have muscles in your brains? Run. Gabriel, who was still on the sidelines and tortured Rob Lucci, who was bound into rice dumplings by seastone chains, was directly stunned by Stussy. After being stunned for a few seconds, Gabriel finally came to his senses, and also roared angrily. Stussy, would you like to hear what you're saying? Run. We are the strongest CP organization, so what if there are many people on the opposite side? I can kill them all by myself. Bai Shang also frowned, and looked at Stussy in bewilderment, but before he even opened his mouth, the irritable Stussy continued to spray. You killed your horse. Use your binoculars to see who's on the other side. Damn, Redfield, Jabba, Bullet, Sunbell, and that unknown clown Buggy. And that she-male king. Tell me, who are you going to kill? You're so awesome. Why don't you just go and do 4 emperors? Run, idiot. After hearing Stussy's roar, Icebear and Gabriel seemed to have been poured with ice water. There is one thing to say, the names of these people are indeed enough to bluff people. But Gabriel was the only one with the toughest mouth. After hearing what Stussy said, he still roared angrily. I don't believe it. They have been imprisoned for decades, and they still have admiral-level strength? In this regard, the White Bear is actually a little puzzled. After being imprisoned for decades, is he really as strong as before? Mom retarded. Stussy was numb, and the next moment, her pupils shrank, she shook her head and sighed. If you don't believe me, go and try it yourself. I can't run now, they are here. Now, Gabriel, you have a chance to prove yourself. Go. Get me the head of Lonely Red. Swish. As soon as Stussy said this, Gabriel and Icebear turned their heads almost at the same time. The next moment, they saw a few people on the large warship opposite them flying towards them. 3 of them used moonwalk, and the other 3 used fly. The people who came were naturally Buggy and his party. After Duolingo told the clothes of the people on the opposite medium-sized warship, Buggy judged that the people might be CP0 of the government's highest CP agency. As soon as they heard CP0, several people standing behind him also became interested. After all, the government's highest cipher poll, they are also very curious. So Buggy, Redfield, Jabba, Bullet, Duolingo, and Crocodile flew out of the warship and rushed forward. Sunbelt jumped directly into the sea and rushed towards the warship ahead. His speed was no slower than that of Buggy and others, and a huge wave of water was created on the sea surface, which looked extremely hot and eye-catching. In less than 10 seconds, Buggy and the others crossed a few nautical miles and came to the high altitude in front of the medium-sized warship, looking down at the crowd below. There are more than a dozen agents in black suits on this medium-sized marine warship. Some of them are responsible for guarding Rob Lucci and others, and some are operating the ship. The 3 people standing on the bow deck, Buggy glanced at them, they were all the people in his memory. Although the other 2 didn't know their names, after seeing Stussy, the queen of the festival, he was sure that these 3 people in white suits belonged to CP0, and nodded immediately. That's right, it's CP0, but there are only 3 people here, which is a bit of a disappointment. I just took care of Magellan, now I'll leave it to you here. You pick an opponent yourself. Hearing Buggy's words, Duolingo, who was fluttering 6 pairs of wings in the air behind him, shook his short black hair, stared at Gabriel without blinking and said with a smile. Captain, and everyone, leave the one with the afro mask to me. He has an aura that disgusts me. Jabba shrugged, I don't care. Bullet grinned and pointed at the white bear. Leave this big guy to me. It hasn't been moved for more than 10 years. It's time to warm up first. Redfield shook his head and said, I'm an old man, and I can't move anymore. I'll leave this lady to you to deal with. Hearing this, Crocodile on the side was eager to try and laughed out loud. Ha ha ha. Then leave it to me. Even if the other party is a woman, I will not show mercy. Just before heading to Marineford, let's practice your hands first. Arc Moon Sand Dunes. While speaking, his figure had turned into a fluttering cloud of dust and rushed towards Stussy first. At the same time, with a wave of his right hand, a huge crescent-shaped sand blade with a length of 5 or 6 meters cut towards Stussy. Seeing this, Stussy sighed. Although I don't think I'm an opponent of you guys, you are not among them, Sand Crocodile. Moon shaved. Gentle fist-armed collapse. Following Stussy's words, her bumpy figure disappeared directly on the deck with a swish. After a few bang-bang blasts in the air, Crocodile appeared in mid-air in the next instant. Forward. Then, under the stunned and horrified eyes of the other party, the armed fist with the orange and white emission slammed into Crocodile's stomach. Boom. Wow. Gravel splashed. Crocodile's body was sunken instantly, his eyes widened in disbelief, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body flew backwards hundreds of meters at a faster speed than when he came, without even saying a word, plop, and fell directly into the sea. Seeing this, Buggy not only didn't care, but let out a Poochie laugh. He doesn't worry about having Sunbelt underwater, and it's good to let Lao Sha suffer. Advanced Armament Hockey, or emission. Snapped, snapped, snapped. Buggy looked at Stussy with a smile while applauding and said, It seems that this is the real strength of the Queen of the Pleasure District. If so, I'm a little interested. At this time, Stussy also moved his eyes away from Lonely Red, and landed on Buggy who was in the middle of them. A smile burst out on his solemn and delicate face, and he exclaimed. I always thought that the leader of this jailbreak was Lonely Red, but I didn't expect you to be the real talker. Clown Buggy? A bounty of 15 million Baileys? It seems that the world is played by you in the palm of your hand. What a horrible man you are. Hiding so deeply, what is your purpose? People are also very interested in you. While talking to Stussy, Buggy also saw the people bound by seastone chains and steel chains on the deck of the warship. Looking at it really surprised Buggy. Rob Lucci, Kaku, Jabra, Nuggets, Fukuru. Hey, 2 people are missing? Buggy was a little puzzled. According to the pirate plot he is familiar with, the current Rob Lucci and the others should be fleeing to Guanhao Island. Maybe it's because they met Stussy and the others when they fled, so it's normal to be arrested. In the original plot, I don't know what method CP0 used to brainwash Rob Lucci and Kaku to join CP0 and completely become the dog of celestial dragons. You must know that after the Enies lobby incident, except for Rob Lucci and Kaku, the other members of CP9 were all removed from the world government. What this means does not need to be said at all. Judging from the plot of the previous Life comics, Khalifa, Bluno, Kudo, Fukuru and Jabra may have died.
Even if Rob Lucci is cold-blooded and ruthless, Kaku is not that kind of person.
It is impossible to join CP0 after the opponent kills other partners. As for CP0 letting go of Khalifa and the others? This is not a consideration at all. Do elephants consider the feelings of ants? Especially the few ants who know the many dark sides of the world government. In the worst case, he would be trampled to death. How could he let him go free? Still in such a world where power is paramount. Huh? Mr. Buggy, you seem to be very interested in our CP trader? Just as Buggy was thinking about this, Stussy had already stepped on the moonwalk to the sky, gently patting on the void 10 meters away from Buggy. Ah. Buggy glanced up at Stussy and smiled. You should know the whole story of the Enies lobby incident. These guys fought against my nephew, so I have some impressions. What? Monkey D. Luffy is your nephew? This time it was Stussy's turn to look stunned. Right. Buggy shrugged. Fire Fist Ace is my eldest nephew, and Ace is Luffy's older brother, so he is my younger nephew, you understand that? Understood. What a ghost. Stussy stared at the big Kazilon eyes, and scolded Buggy coquettishly. What kind of relationship network are you guys? Just after she finished speaking, she seemed to have caught on to something again, looked at Buggy in shock and said. So you infiltrated Impertinent to save Fire Fist Ace? Well, you can understand it that way. Buggy nodded calmly. Boom boom boom. Bang bang bang. Wow. Compared to the two of them chatting casually here, a fierce battle is erupting in the distant sky. Duolingo exuded black mist all over his body, and the one he was fighting with was exuding white mist all over his body. When he took a closer look at the good guy, the guy exuding white mist turned out to be an angel. It's just that this white angel is a four-winged angel. No wonder this guy CP0 is nicknamed Gabriel. It turned out to be a holy angel form of a phantom beast. It can be said to be the complete opposite of Duolingo's fallen angel form. But that Gabriel is nowhere near as exploited as the Duolingo Grandmaster. If it weren't for his 6-style physical skills and hockey being stronger than Duolingo, I'm afraid he would have been killed by Duolingo's weird ability now. Even so, Gabriel's body was still dripping with blood, which was extremely miserable. Compared with the elegance of the white suit at the beginning, it looks very embarrassed. Along the way, Buggy can be regarded as a simple understanding of Duolingo's fruit ability. The two pairs of wings can control the wind power, and when the wings are flapping, as long as he can reach his will, he can send out a wind blade that is like a swordsman's slashing level to attack the enemy. The abilities of the other two pairs of wings are Mental Shock and Flame Jet. So, Mara Mara fruit, dogs don't eat it. Because one of Gabriel's abilities on the opposite side is also Flame Jet, but the other ability seems to be related to lightning. It's just that when this guy fights, he uses more of the 6-style in-depth development moves. For example, the trick, Moon Shave, that Stussy used before is actually a combination of Moonwalk and Shave, allowing her to use Shave easily even in the air, which can be said to completely expand her combat range and also enhanced her agility and power ceiling. In addition, Stussy's high-level armament hockey with emission, which can only be cultivated in Wano Kuni, allows her to defeat the top powerhouses among the two CP0s like Gabriel and Ice Bear even without eating devil fruit. The strength of these three can be said to be Stussy's strongest, and Gabriel and Ice Bear are on equal footing. But if the three of them compare with Magellan, Buggy still thinks Magellan is stronger. Especially the terrible poison of Magellan. Don't look at Magellan's poison being completely suppressed by Buggy's ability, it's just that his crushing magic plus Chop Chop Fruit's ability after awakening is too powerful. This can be said to be a crushing ability. Any person or thing within 1 meter of Buggy's body, as long as Buggy thinks, his shattering magic can passively cause shattering explosion damage to them. That's the scary thing about Gildart's templates. Otherwise, even if Buggy can take down Magellan, he will definitely be poisoned. Otherwise, why even a guy like Jabba, who is super armed, is so afraid of Magellan? It is because his fruit ability is too terrifying. No matter how strong it is, as long as it touches it, it will be poisoned. But it's a pity. Magellan was defeated by Buggy's, Gildart's template. Coupled with the mastery of the advanced armament hockey with emission, this allowed him to easily kill Magellan. Looking at it this way, it will make people think that Buggy is already invincible? It has also been said before that as long as armament hockey is tall enough, or stronger than Buggy, he can still be seriously injured. Another day is that the current Buggy is equivalent to the output ability of the Admiral level, but the physical fitness is still very weak, that is, it is not durable enough. The awakened Logias like Akainu and Aokiji are too heaven-defying for 10 days and nights at every turn, and today's Buggy can't do it at all. It's a bit like Luffy, the king of emission in Gear 4, but it's definitely better than Luffy the king. Because even if Buggy is impatient, it is still difficult for others to hurt him. After all, the powerful, Gildart's template plus chop chop fruit ability is there. But it is basically impossible to kill him. Therefore, the current Buggy can say that as long as he doesn't meet guys who are one dimension higher or a few big ranks, he basically doesn't hesitate to meet anyone. Duolingo's side is about to decide the outcome. There is no suspense on Bullet's side. The CP0, which is also the Phantom Beast Iceborne Ice Bear, has already been hammered bloody by him, and this is the case that Bullet has not used the ability to combine fruit. Sure enough, no matter how strong CP0 is, it is impossible to be really strong to the Admiral level. Otherwise, the world government cannot be heaven-defying? Thinking of this, Buggy looked up at Stussy and smiled. It seems that your two companions are almost ready, so Miss Stussy, are you going to catch me without a fight, or are you going to fight me? Huh. You are too impatient, Miss Stussy. Before Buggy finished speaking here, Stussy appeared in front of Buggy without warning. It's the same trick as against Crocodile before, but it's more powerful and fierce. Crocodile, who was picked up by Sunbell just now, happened to see this scene. Seeing Armament Hockey, who was as terrifying as a flame, and the punch that hit Buggy with a sonic boom, even he couldn't help but sweat for Buggy. Sunbell in the sea was also shocked when he saw this scene. Even he couldn't master this level of armed color. How can a government cipher pole have such a terrible role? Not only Sunbell, but also Ivankov, Luffy, Mr. One and others who came after seeing this scene, felt the punch that seemed invincible to them, cold sweat dripped from their foreheads, and subconsciously exclaimed. Snapped. But in the next moment, under everyone's shocked eyes, Buggy just raised his hand casually, and with the white light shining in his palm, Stussy's small white fist with a terrifying punch was easily pinched by Buggy in his hand. Even the high-level armament Hockey with emission turned into a little bit of starburst at this moment and was shattered to pieces. How is this possible? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Stussy was stunned. This was her strongest move. How could it be handled so easily? Is she dreaming? Isn't this man a little too strong? Is the gap between her and Admiral really that big? Seeing the terrified Stussy, Buggy just nodded slightly at her and said, Stussy, you are not bad, but I am much better than you. In fact, as long as the armed color level does not exceed Buggy. Even if it is an emission with a high-level armed color, Buggy with a high-level armed color can hold it, and he can smash it with his ability. Facing Magellan before, if the fruit ability was restrained. Then facing the CP0 officer Stussy with advanced armed colors at this time, it reflects the pervert of Buggy's ability. The awakening completed by smashing magic plus chop chop fruit is the power to smash everything, and the ability is much stronger. Regardless of whether it is the color of the weapon, the powerful fist, or even the powerful power emanating from the fist, it is still within the rules of being crushed. That is, no matter what Stussy does. As long as her armed color level is not higher than Buggy's, or if she doesn't have Conqueror's entanglement, then she is destined to become Buggy's plaything. The end is definitely worse than Magellan. Now Buggy's only weakness is that it can't sustain a long-term battle for the time being. But this is also relative. First of all, the opponent must be able to withstand the high attack output of the Buggy Admiral level. In the original plot, Akainu and Aokiji fought for 10 days and 10 nights, which is temporarily impossible for Buggy. But if you really put him in a fight with Admiral level players for a day, he can still do it. And it can also retreat from the whole body. Today's Buggy can be said to be of the Admiral level except for physical strength and durability. Especially at this time, Gildart's Smash Magic plus Chop Chop Fruit. The true usage of Buggy has not been fully revealed. Only when he is on the battlefield can his abilities be brought into full play. Facing Stussy, who is at the Admiral level, Buggy is really well versed. Compared with Buggy's relaxed and freehand style, Stussy is completely unacceptable. No. Stussy's originally beautiful and delicate face was full of ferocity at this time, and his hands were covered with orange-white armed emission again, and he blasted at Buggy again. Impossible. How could you be so strong? What kind of fruit are you eating? Bang bang bang. With each punch of Stussy, the sonic boom and the power of the armed emission exploded 1 meter in front of Buggy, turning into countless stars. After a series of quick and violent attacks, even Stussy, who is a physical Superman, was exhausted and out of breath at this time. Hockey wasted too much. Her face was full of despair and disbelief at this moment, and she murmured. How is it possible? Marine Admiral is nothing more than that. Am I still that far away from that position? Hearing her words, Buggy chuckled and shook his head. Don't look at Admiral so cheaply, The strong are all born out of fighting. After all, you are just the head of a cipher pole. Every day in a place like Happy Street, you still want to reach Admiral's strength? You don't think that people call you one of the emperors of the underground world, so you really consider yourself an emperor, do you? Are you underestimating the strength of the world's top combat power? Okay. Let's go, big sister. I don't kill women. At first Stussy didn't respond to Buggy's words, but when she heard Buggy's last words, she froze for a moment and looked at Buggy in disbelief, confirming with his eyes. Seeing that Buggy didn't show any intention of repenting, she immediately showed a gleam of joy in her heart. It seems that men really give preferential treatment to beautiful women. It's just that the man Buggy the Clown is too threatening. After returning, he must report to the commander of the Holy Land God's Punishment Army to take action himself. Just when Stussy turned around and was about to leave after the catastrophe, Lonely Red in the distance looked at Buggy with doubtful eyes. They saw that after Stussy turned around, Buggy's big scarlet mouth with clown makeup pulled upward slightly, revealing a weird smile exclusive to clowns. Then, they saw Buggy slowly raised his right hand, and pointed his palm at Stussy's back. They have already seen this trick. It is to solve Magellan's trick. Could it be? Sure enough, in the next moment, a white light and blue-purple emission converged in Buggy's palm, only to turn into a glass-colored beam of light and rage out in an instant. The surrounding air was distorted by the power brought by this beam of light. After careful observation, one could even see fine space cracks appearing around this beam of light. Breaking evil and showing righteousness one day emission. Buggy thought silently, and the next moment, this white beam of light pierced directly from the back of Stussy, who was full of smiles. Ah! Stussy let out a scream, and his figure fell directly from the air and hit the deck of the warship with a boom, falling in front of the shocked Rob Lucci and others. You. Cough cough. Why? Stussy turned her head full of astonishment and incomprehension to look at the man floating not far in front of her. She really couldn't understand. Since this man had already said that he would not kill women, why did he break his promise? She couldn't understand. Not only her, but everyone else looked at Buggy incomprehensibly. Ha 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 ha. Buggy's laughter gradually began to echo, and this scene suddenly felt a nervous madness in the eyes of others. Could this be the real face of that clown Buggy? Actually, he is a lunatic. But at this moment, they saw Buggy suddenly turned his head to one side. Mr. Redfield, Mr. Skelba, don't you think this Stussy looks familiar to you? Redfield and Jabba were both lost in thought when they heard the words. For a moment, they really didn't understand the meaning of Buggy's words. Seeing this, Buggy chuckled and said a name, Parkinjum Stussy. Swish. Almost as soon as Buggy said the name, Redfield, Jabba, and Stussy all exclaimed at the same time. What? How is it possible? How old is Bacongome? If he was alive, he would be 70 or 80 years old, right? Could it be devil fruit? You. All three of them had the same shocked expression at this moment. Buggy shook his head, not thinking of being a riddler, and uttered a message that shocked everyone. It's not devil fruit, she's just a clone of Bacongome Stussy, the most successful #1 work in world government Mads's cloning experiment. Wow. As soon as Buggy said this, everyone present fell into dead silence. Even Gabriel and Icebear, who were covered in blood fighting in the sky, were equally shocked. This is a secret that even they don't know. Human cloning. Experiment works. These words are too discordant and too shocking to be used on a living person. Especially for today's pirates, a world where sailing is still used for sailing, and the level of technology is generally low in the public's perception. To say such words simply subverts their three views. But to say Buggy tricked them? It seems that there is no need for that. Because from the shock on the face of the dying Stussy, and the expression of the secret being revealed, it can be seen that the thing is true. The world government is actually doing this kind of human cloning experiment. And it worked. As Redfield, Jabba, Bullet, Duolingo and others who have come from the Rocks era, they have naturally seen Bacongome Stussy. It's just that they didn't think about it at all before. Now they take a closer look at Stussy, and find that she really looks too much like the woman named Pajingam Stussy who was on the Rocks ship. Being suddenly attacked by the memory of death, several people in Redfield fell silent for a while. Even Bullet and Duolingo stopped for a while and continued to torture Gabriel and Icebear, also looking at Stussy in shock. The more they look at this, the more shocked they become. Because the figure of this woman and the Bacongome Stussy in their memory gradually met. Before they could react, Stussy was like a flashback. She screamed at Buggy like a crazy female leopard. This is impossible. How could you possibly know such a thing? I should have killed all the insiders. Impossible, absolutely impossible. They promised me not to tell anyone, damn 5 elders. Damn it, 5 old bastards dare to betray my mother's secret. Fortunately, my old lady has been their dog for so many years, I really want to screw off their heads one by one and kick them like balls. Hiss, hearing Stussy's angry scream, Ivankov and the others gasped. Especially the rant against the 5 elders at the end. This made Gabriel and Icebear, who were caught by Duolingo and Bullet, dumbfounded at this moment. Although they knew that this woman was a little nervous, they didn't expect her to dare to be so disrespectful to Lord 5 elders. This situation should have been impossible for her as a CP0 cadre. But after thinking about it, she is already dying, so what awe is there for 5 elders at this time? Especially after she found out that she was likely to be betrayed by the 5 elders, she was even more furious. The only secret is now completely exposed. She is just a clone, an experimental subject. How sad it is. Rob Lucci and others who were tied up behind were also looking at the dying officer in disbelief at this time. The woman who defeated them by raising her hand at random and almost destroyed their hometown on Guanhao Island was just a clone. A clone of the government is so strong? No wonder the government wants to kill them. If even such terrifying powerhouses can be cloned, what are they? Thinking of this, Rob Lucci and others couldn't help feeling bitter inside in their hearts. Fortunately, Bluno also took Khalifa away. Originally, he wanted to get them to take revenge, but now that Stussy, who is only a clone, is so strong, he still hopes that the two of them will find a place to live in seclusion. Rob Lucci sighed inwardly. In fact, Rob Lucci thought too much. If every clone can be as strong as Stussy, then what kind of pacifist is there? On the other hand, Buggy was a little taken aback. He didn't expect the woman Stussy to go crazy, regardless of what her immediate boss thought. She thought it was the 5 elders who betrayed her. Tisk. At this time, Buggy suddenly had an idea, wondering if it would be more reliable to let her go back and let her engage in 5 elders? Just as Buggy was thinking about this, Redfield's voice suddenly rang in his ears. Let her go back. The seeds of doubt have been planted, and the thoughts of rebellion have sprouted. This woman can use it. Buggy tilted his head slightly, and was surprised to see that Redfield was still at an altitude of 100 meters. This guy probably didn't eat devil fruit. How did he manage to pass the voice over thousands of miles without letting people hear it? But this is also in line with Buggy's thinking. As for recruiting this woman, he has no such idea at all. As a Stussy who has been trained as a government spy from birth to now, he will not use it at all. Even if she has a serious hatred for the 5 elders, she is a woman who has been brainwashed by the world government for decades. Such a woman can be played with or used, but invite her on board, and forget it. At least not before his power is stabilized. In a flash of thought, Buggy threw his right hand, throwing his right hand in the real sense, and his right arm flew more than 100 meters away, grabbed Ivankov who was lying on a large military building in the distance watching the excitement, and lifted him over. Hey, Buggy boy, what are you doing? Ivankov kicked his thick legs in the air, his face full of doubts. Boom. Buggy threw her directly to Stussy's side, smiled and said. Ivan Sauce, give her a healing hormone, didn't I tell you? I don't kill women. Are you so ruthless if you don't kill women? Ghosts believe you, bastard. You clearly wanted to kill her just now. Everyone around felt like throwing up, but they all chose to shut up from the heart. The corners of Ivankov's mouth twitched. As a cadre of the Revolutionary Army, she now realized that Buggy asked her to save this woman. This man is really sinister and ruthless. Good. Originally, she didn't hesitate anymore towards Ivankov, but immediately, under the puzzled gaze of Stussy who was still swearing, 10 spikes popped out of the pink leather gloves on her hands. Immediately, under the amazed eyes of everyone, it was inserted on Stussy's slender waist. Embryo healing hormone. With a loud roar from Ivankov, a surge of energy surged from between the 10 fingernails of his hands into Stussy's body. Then a magical scene appeared. Stussy, who was vomiting blood and was pale, recovered quickly in less than a minute. Soon, she became like a normal person. Except for the shredded clothes on her back and abdomen, revealing her smooth and white abdomen and back, there were no wounds. Wow. A dying person was not only rescued by Ivankov, but also acted as if nothing had happened. Everyone who saw this scene was completely shocked. F*K. Is this okay? As expected of Lord Ivan. Ah, Lord Ivan, our great ladyboy queen. Master Ivan, my Lord Ivan, hiss. What an incredible ability. Even Stussy himself was in shock and disbelief at the moment. But soon she reacted instinctively as an agent. She turned to Ivankov and said in shock. Are you the hormone fruit of paramecia? Yo, you have good eyesight. Ivankov raised his eyebrows and said seductively. Beautiful lady, would you like to come to Kamabaka Kingdom with me? I can make you more feminine, even plastic surgery can be done, so that people will no longer recognize you. Not to mention, when Ivankov said this, Stussy was really a little excited. To be honest, the moment she was exposed by Buggy, she had a feeling of despair. She just decided it was the 5 elders who lied to her anyway. Otherwise, she killed all the experimenters back then. How could anyone else know about it? But it doesn't matter now. By the time she had a nervous breakdown and turned into a madman yelling at the 5 elders, she was completely disqualified from being the dog of the celestial dragons again. Because celestial dragons don't need a dog that's disrespectful to them. As an old Cypher Pole employee, Stussy can naturally understand Buggy's intentions. I'm afraid this man regards her as an idle pawn against the world government? What a terrible man. Stussy's beautiful eyes flashed, and finally raised his eyes to look at Buggy and said. Master Buggy, are you really going to let me go? The clown makeup on the corner of Buggy's mouth rose slightly, his smile widened, and he said seriously. Of course, didn't I say that? Sister, I don't kill women. A clone is also a human being, and a life. I respect life very much. How could you be so cruel that I want to kill you? The corner of Stussy's mouth twitched. I said in my heart that if you hadn't come from behind me hard before, I would have believed it. However, before she could speak again, Duolingo on the other side came to Buggy with Gabriel whose hands were full of blood, and said with a grin. Captain, what do you think of this guy? Bang bang bang. On the other side, Bullet also walked over Moonwalk with the dying white bear. And this guy? 2 celestial dragons' dogs, useless to keep. Kill them and throw them into the sea to feed the fish. After speaking, he waved his hand casually. Stussy, who was standing not far from Buggy, shuddered. Who was talking about respecting life just now? Good guy. Kill it if you say it? Don't want to find a way to get some information? Duolingo and Bullet were stunned for a moment, but they didn't say much. They killed them directly, and threw them into the sea according to what Buggy said. This piece of sea near Impel Down is full of sea kings, and it won't take long for these 2 CP0 cadres to be completely swallowed up. A white light emerged from Buggy's hand, shooting out several finger-sized rays onto the deck where Rob Lucci and the others were. Breakdown control. Buggy thought silently, then looked at Stussy and said. The ship can be left to you, and the agents can be left to you. However, Rob Lucci and I will take them away. After speaking, he raised his hand and shook it. Caw caw caw. The deck where Rob Lucci and the others were lying split apart, and then they floated up and headed towards the large warship behind. Buggy also got up and flew into the air, leaving a sentence at the same time. Stussy, whether you are pretending or you hate me, the world government and CP0 have no place for you. A new era is upon us. I am looking forward to the choices you make in the face of such a wave of the times. After finishing speaking, he no longer cared about Stussy in the rear, and directly skipped over the large warship on the other side and past him. Stussy looked at the back of the man on the bow of the large warship. Her eyes gradually became firmer, but when she turned to those black-clothed agents, her voice became indifferent. Back to Happy Street. Yes. The agents trembled and agreed. On a large warship. Kacha kacha kacha. Buggy smashed the chains on Rob Lucci and others, and before he could speak, Luffy jumped out in shock and shouted. Ah, it's you, the pigeon breeder. Have you come here after this guy? Snapped. Buggy raised his hand and slapped Luffy on the head. Didn't you see I just lifted the seastone chains off them? Oh. Eh? Are they caught? Why? Aren't they with the government? Luffy scratched his head, a little puzzled, and suddenly he exclaimed again. Hey, who has beaten you so badly as a pigeon breeder? Lucci. Kaku. The few of them were speechless for a while. Do you still have to ask if it's so obvious? But they ignored the nervous Luffy, and they all turned to look at Buggy. After 2 seconds of silence, Lucci said in a deep voice. Buggy the Clown, I didn't expect you to be such a powerful pirate, so I want to know why a big pirate like you captured us? 2 choices, one is to join us, the other is to die. Buggy raised 2 fingers, looked at Rob Lucci, and suddenly showed a strange smile on the clown makeup of the others. Rob Lucci, you don't want your hometown Guanhao Island to be erased for no reason, do you? Hearing Buggy's words, Lucci and the others all looked terrified, and then they all looked at each other. Kaku was the first to speak. Lucci, you make a decision. Jabra shrugged. Is there a better choice now? Snuggle sighed. The old man listens to you and makes your choice, Lucci. Fukuru. Me too, Shibaba. After hearing this, Lucci was silent for a few seconds, then looked at Buggy with firm eyes and said. I can join you, but I hope you, Lord Buggy, can help me find my other two companions. They are now being hunted by the government. Instead of letting me find them, let them come to you. Buggy looked at Lucci with a smile. Master Buggy, what do you mean by that? Lucci was puzzled, and the others also looked at Buggy suspiciously. Do you know where we're going now? Buggy looked at Lucci and the others. Lucci thought for a while and said, didn't you guys just break out from Impertin? You should go to the Grand Line at this time? No. Buggy pouted at the open door of justice ahead and said. We're going to Marineford now. What? Hearing Buggy's words, Rob, Lucci and others exclaimed in horror. Master Buggy, are you going to participate in the war between Marine and Whitebeard pirates? Kaku reacted quickly. Right. Buggy glanced at them and grinned. So, as a nomination certificate to join me, you can dance to your heart's content in this summit war. Rob Lucci now understands why Buggy dared to invite them, who used to be CP9 government spies, on board. At the same time, he also understood the meaning of Buggy. As long as they appear in Marineford with Buggy to fight against Marine, then as long as they survive after this time, their reward orders will inevitably be distributed all over the world. At that time, Bluno and Khalifa who were hidden could follow Buggy's way to find them. Is it a badge of honor on the battlefield? After figuring this out, Lucci's eyes gradually became sharper, and he looked at Buggy and said in a deep voice. Okay. This time on the battlefield, we will go through fire and water for Mr. Buggy, and we will die. I didn't ask you to do this. I didn't ask you to help Whitebeard kill Marine. Buggy chuckled and waved his hands. You guys have great potential, and your physical skills over the years have laid a good foundation for yourself. It's just being an espionage officer for too long and wasting too much time. I want you to go to the top of the battlefield not to kill you, but to let you experience the world's top battlefield and the fighting between the top powerhouses, so as to completely wash away the breath of spy personnel in this body. A strong man needs constant fighting to transform. If you don't die on the top battlefield this time, I will teach you how to embark on the road to the top powerhouse. Lucci and the others were stunned when they heard Buggy's words. They originally thought that Buggy recruited them, just because of their status as former spy members and asking some government secrets. After all, they don't think that their current strength can help Buggy anything. Unexpectedly, the other party was so optimistic about them. Moreover, it seems that they still have to be cultivated? This brought a little surprise to their original ultra-low expectations. At the same time, there is a trace of gratitude and gratitude. After all, Buggy really saved them from CP0, and it can be said that they also avoided the destruction of their hometown Guanhao Island from the side. How can they not be grateful for treating them like this now? It can only be said that the strong fart is delicious. Especially the strong ones who are good to you. Snapped. Buggy was very satisfied with Lucci's answer, snapped his fingers and looked at Ivankov with a smile. Ivan Sauce, I'll leave their injuries to you. Wrap me Buggy boy. Ivan patted his muscular chest. I have to say that the paramecia hormone fruit is really an awesome fruit. After explaining the matters here, Buggy walked to the bow again. Redfield and Jabba were standing there and staring ahead, and they were all looking at the door of justice that was slowly opening. Ha ha ha. As the towering door of justice slowly opened, even the ocean currents were partially changed. This made the large warship move a little faster. I smell battle. Bullet looked forward, licked his lips and said. Yes, a tragic war. Redfield also narrowed his eyes. Buggy laughed and walked over. Guys, I haven't fought for a long time, so don't be scared to pee your pants later. His words were like stabbing a hornet's nest, and instantly made them all go crazy. Smelly brat, who are you underestimating? You are the one, don't drag us back. HMPH. Give me some respect for seniors, hello. After a burst of laughter, Jabba suddenly looked at Buggy and said. Buggy, now that you've decided to rescue Ace, do you have any plans? It is not that simple to save someone from the execution platform in Marineford. Whether it is 3 Admiral, or Garp, Sangoku, they will not let you get your wish easily. The plan is naturally thought of long ago. Buggy chuckled, waved to Mr. 3 and Bon Clay, and called them over. Then briefly talk about the plan. In fact, They were attracting attention on the frontal battlefield, and then when the battle was heating up, Marine and the others used conquerors to stun the two execution soldiers when they started execution. Then Zhaofang, who mastered the clone fruit, sneaked into the execution soldiers, and let him and Mr. 3 replace the execution soldiers. Coupled with the ability of Mr. 3's wax fruit, it can easily open the sea stone handcuffs. At that time, even if Sengoku and the others were guarding Ace, they would not have thought that the execution soldiers would suddenly release Ace's sea stone handcuffs. This completes the first part of the rescue plan. Whether they can be taken away later depends on their future plans. After listening to Buggy's plan, Mr. 3 and Bon Clay finally understood why Buggy wanted to rescue them. So at that time, Master Buggy already had a perfect plan in mind? How do you say that? Jabba on the side asked with some doubts. Mr. 3 and Bentham talked about the fact that Buggy had a purpose to save them from the beginning, and Luffy on one side raised his hand as a testimony. After understanding what happened, Jabba and others looked at each other in blank dismay, admiring Buggy's strategy in their hearts. Ivankov and his younger brothers exclaimed and admired for a while. You must know that they watched the whole process of Buggy's rescue from the phone bug. It can be said that they know best. It's just that the more they get to know, the more in awe they will be of Buggy. A strong man with such terrifying strength, coupled with his ability to endure what ordinary people can't bear, finally has such a plan. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but marvel, this man is really terrifying. Mr. 3 and Bon Clay glanced at each other, and both saw the shock in each other's eyes, and then they patted their chests to reassure. Don't worry, Master Buggy, we will definitely complete the task. That's right. Leave the heavy responsibility of rescuing Ace to us. Swish. Hearing the roar of the two of them, Luffy, who was eating in the distance, moved his ears, rushed over and shouted. The task of saving Ace? I want to participate in any task. Shut up, you. Buggy glared at him and said. As long as you don't make trouble, Ace can be rescued easily, and you can safely attract firepower on the frontal battlefield, and leave the rest to your uncle and me. Luffy scowled, then immediately nodded and said. Okay. Leave it to Uncle Buggy, I'm very relieved. At this time, Jabba on the side suddenly said. Buggy, since you're here, what about Shanks? If you know the identity of Ace, he shouldn't be ignorant, right? Shanks? Buggy thought for a while and said. Of course he knows. If there is time, I think he will go. Hearing this, Jabba was thoughtful. Bullet on the side suddenly said. Shanks, is he also one of the 4 emperors today? Buggy looked at him with a smile. What? If you still want to teach him the same way as before, then you should take it for now, Bullet. Today's Shanks has grown to a terrifying level. You've been in prison for too long after all and need to take your time. Bullet looked at him in surprise and said, do you think so highly of Shanks? Can it be high? According to the plot known by Buggy in the previous life, Shanks should be the last 4 emperors. According to the law of appearance, it is natural that the later the person who enters the field, the stronger the combat power. Moreover, the deterrence shown by Shanks in the late pirate period is indeed the strongest existence among the 4 emperors. A conqueror makes Vice Admiral kneel down, and deters Marine Admiral's Green Bull from daring to move an inch. In the theatrical version, it is even a killing of knowledge and knowledge that directly abolished half of Fujitora, and facing 2 admirals is only strong but not weak. From now on, the Emperor will be reduced to a laughing stock. It has to be said that Shanks, who appeared in the later stage, really had a little bit of hockey from 4 emperors. In contrast, the Ant and Cutie who were killed by Luffy, Luo and Kid got a lot of crotch. Or in other words, the 3 of them hung up too much. When you see him soon, you'll understand. Patting Bullet on the shoulder, Buggy looked at Jabba and smiled. If there is time, Shanks will come to Marineford as well. It seems that someone restrained him. Redfield hit the point right away. That's right. Buggy restrained his smile, and said in a deep voice. As the saying goes, there are only wrong names, but no wrong titles. The resourceful General Sengoku, knowing that the person to be executed is a child of One Piece, it is impossible for him not to prevent us who used to be Roger's crew. That being the case, the person who should be on guard the most is naturally one of the 4 emperors of the New World, the red-haired Shanks. Only the 4 emperors can contain the 4 emperors. So this war is not just a war between Marine and Whitebeard pirates, but a game between Marine, World Government and New World 4 emperors. When saying these words, Buggy did not restrain his voice. Therefore, Rob Lucci's group, Crocodile and Luffy sitting below all stared in shock at this moment. They didn't expect that this Marineford war would involve such a wide range.
In this way, the title of Summit War can be said to be worthy of the name.
Gurgling. Some people couldn't stop swallowing their saliva, obviously shocked by the news. Shanks. Luffy over there pricked up his ears again, and then ran to Buggy with a whoosh and said in surprise. Uncle Buggy, you just said Shanks, right? Oh. I remember. You also said before that you knew Shanks. It seems that Uncle Rayleigh said it too. Hearing Luffy's words, not only Jabba, Bullet, Duolingo, and Sunbel, but even Redfield on the side made a sound of surprise. Boy. Who are you talking about, Uncle Rayleigh? Jabba looked at Luffy suspiciously. Uncle Rayleigh is Uncle Rayleigh. Luffy looked at Jabba puzzled. Buggy coughed dryly and said, yes, Uncle Rayleigh the boy is talking about is the mate. It's just that his old man has retired now, and he has been a coding general in Sabodi Archipelago, and now lives with Sister Shaki. Originally, I wanted to take you to meet him after the Summit War ended this time, and give you a surprise. I didn't expect to be broken by this kid. Rayleigh, coding will? Jabba froze for a moment, then laughed loudly. This is really like his style. Duolingo also smiled and said. Ha ha ha. Did that Rayleigh guy still escape Shaki's palm? Sunbel scratched and said with a smile, it's great that the Rayleigh guy is alright. Although Bullet didn't say anything, there was a rare ferocious smile on his face. No way, no matter how much this guy smiles, it's terrifying. Buggy raised his hand and patted Luffy on the head and said. You Shanks and I used to be Captain Rogers' crew members, so we naturally knew each other. If he has time this time, you may be able to meet. Hey. Will Shanks come too? It would be great if we could meet. Luffy looked excited, his body trembling as he grabbed the brim of the straw hat with both hands. Ivankov, Crocodile, Rob Lucci and others all sat there eating melons with a look of surprise. They never expected that they would hear shocking news again and again. Lord Buggy and Shanks have both stayed on the ship of One Piece? No wonder. No wonder this man has such terrifying strength. If he and Redhead are in the same period, it makes sense. It's just that this man has been hiding himself so deeply all these years. Why? Is it really the unseen changes in the millennium that he said? But no matter what, such a man is worth following. Many people looked at Buggy lost in thought. At this moment, Redfield standing at the bow made a sound of surprise. Buggy looked at him subconsciously. The same goes for everyone else. Then everyone turned around following Redfield's gaze, and landed on Lucci and the others. At this time, Lucci, who was receiving Ivan's healing and bandaging, saw so many strong men's eyes on them, and suddenly cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Despite the great pressure, Lucci insisted on gritting his teeth and asked doubtfully. Master Buggy, you are. Squeak. But at this moment, above the void behind Rob Lucci, a door of space suddenly opened. Squeak. As the space door behind Lucci opened, Buggy and the others suddenly saw a big man in a black suit with two horn-like hairstyles protruding half of his body from the space door. At the same time, he stretched out his hands, trying to pull Rob Lucci into the door of space. Whoosh. But in the next moment, a white-haired figure suddenly appeared in front of the space gate. Snapped. Before the man in the horned suit could react, he grabbed his neck and lifted him out of the space gate. What? How come? The man in the horned suit was slipped in the air by Redfield with one hand, just like an adult carrying a child, making him unable to struggle at all. The terrifying force made the latter both shocked and terrified. At this time, Lucci and the others also reacted, turning around almost at the same time. They turned around and saw the familiar figure. Blue No. Lucci, Kaku, and Fukuru cried out in surprise almost at the same time. Huh. Acquaintance. Redfield, who was pinching Blue No's neck, looked at Lucci and the others in surprise, and then set his eyes on Buggy. The latter nodded slightly. Boom. Seeing this, Redfield immediately let go, causing Blue No to fall on the deck. Hoo-hoo. This release immediately gave Blue No room to breathe, pressing his hands on the ground and panting wildly. Being pinched by Redfield before, he was not only physically unwell, but also mentally oppressed. But Blue No was an elite from CP9, so he adjusted quickly. At this time, he also noticed that there seemed to be something wrong. Lucci, Kaku, Fukuru, who are you? Blue No was stunned. Jabra on one side suddenly yelled, call me by my name too, let me play for a while, bastard Blue No. Nugget also covered his heart in pain and said, the old man is too. Seeing their appearance, the corners of Blue No's mouth twitched, and finally his eyes fell on Lucci. Is such that Lucci didn't hide anything, so he told Bluno what happened after they were led away from CP0. Call. Hearing this, the latter heaved a long sigh of relief, then turned to look at Buggy, smiled, knelt down on his knees with a bang, and knocked on Buggy. Master Buggy, thank you for saving our partners' lives. Seeing this scene, Buggy also showed a smile. It was a pity that Bluno had such a practical ability. Unexpectedly, this guy came to the door by himself. Ha ha ha. I also value your potential. Buggy pointed to Bluno. I'm especially interested in the ability of your fruit. How about joining me with Lucci and the others? Of course. Bluno said without hesitation. Thank you Lord Buggy for taking us in, otherwise, we will definitely be removed from the world government. Hearing what Bluno said, Buggy also sighed a little in his heart. There is one thing to say. Based on the information Buggy knew in the previous life, the CP9 Sky Group, except for Lucci and Kaku, were all removed by the world government after the Enies lobby incident. This has always made him feel very sorry. After all, these people are the first to appear on the stage, and they are one of the most impactful villains. After CP9 appeared at that time, Buggy only had a kind, and the government even had this powerful and novel move. There is one thing to say. People who watch One Piece for the first time will definitely be hit by the 6 styles. After Lucci and the others heard Bluno's words, their smiles also subsided a lot. They never imagined that after working for the world government for 10 or 20 years, they would be expelled just because of a mission failure. They even want to destroy their hometown, Guanhao Island. This made them feel very dissatisfied with the world government. If they were to be erased because of mission failure, they would still understand somewhat, but destroying their hometown would completely blacken them. Lucci seemed to have thought of it, and immediately looked to the side of Bluno and said, Bluno, where's Khalifa? Is she not with you? Kaku and the others also turned their heads and looked over. Bluno smiled and said, Don't worry, everyone, after you lure CP0 away, Khalifa and I will hide. Originally, we had been worried that we would not have enough strength to rescue you. But unexpectedly, in that desperate situation, my fruit ability seems to have made a further breakthrough. This gave me the capital to rescue you. But even so, I dared to try it after I had been familiar with the fruit ability for several days. It's just that I didn't expect that you were rescued by Mr. Buggy. I see. Lucci nodded. Everyone is safe, that's the best. Kaku also smiled. And at this moment, Buggy, who hadn't disturbed their reunion in the distance, raised his brows suddenly when he heard what Bluno said, walked over slowly and said, Bluno, you just said that your fruit ability has further broken through? Having said that, he paused and said directly, because the next action is likely to use your fruit ability. So I want to know how far your fruit ability has reached. And what is the general scope of your fruit's ability? It's my honor, Mrs. Buggy. Bluno showed a simple and honest smile. Then began to carefully tell Buggy about his fruit ability. Master Buggy, before I break through, my door fruit is relatively tasteless. It is the ability to open a door from anywhere it touches. Or open a door on any building. But 10 days ago, my abilities had a breakthrough. After that breakthrough, I had a feeling that a door could be formed directly due to my thoughts. In the beginning, this door can only be opened in the places I have been to. As long as I can imagine in my mind, I can open a door in the place I have been, and then go directly from one place to another. After a few days of familiarization and exercise, I found that the ability of this fruit seems to be far more than that. Because I found that as long as I have seen or contacted people, as long as they have not lost their breath of life, I can use the ability of the door fruit to open a door near them. Hiss. Hearing what Bluno said, Jabba and the others who came over gasped slightly. Isn't this ability too convenient? Is it the legendary arbitrary door of time and space? This should be the fruit awakening, right? By the way, if you use this ability to save Ace, wouldn't it be faster and more convenient? That's true, but you still need to divert the main combat power of the guard Ace before you can do it. Otherwise, even the old man will be able to find him in advance, and that old guy Garp won't let this guy get it so easily. When Redfield said this, everyone was shocked. Only then did they remember that Naval Headquarters was still guarded by that marine hero. That is a monster comparable to Redfield. In any case, Bluno's ability is very heaven-defying. Not surprisingly, it should be the fruit ability awakening. It's just that he is not yet familiar with the ability. But even so, the importance of Bluno cannot be compared in the same breath. Buggy has worse ideas now than anyone else chirping about the convenience of Bluno's abilities. Hey hey. As if thinking of something, Buggy suddenly showed a weird smile. At this time, Khalifa, who had just been picked up by Bluno and learned about the general situation, saw Buggy's smile, which made her subconsciously push the gold-rimmed glasses and said bluntly, "Ah, Mr. Buggy, your smile is so insidious. Are you trying to harass me by letter?" Cough. "No, I didn't. Don't talk nonsense." Buggy gave a dry cough, and glanced at the glasses girl Khalifa in a tight black suit, miniskirt and net stockings, and couldn't help but feel a little more satisfied. This woman is indeed as enchanting and beautiful as the memory of her previous life. We must know that when the CP9 Antoine was just released, Khalifa's popularity was comparable to that of Nami to a certain extent. The main reason is that Robin in the early stage was too dark. After Nami's Alabasta bath incident, his compulsion fell a bit. As a die-hard old C fan, Buggy will naturally not favor one another. He has always been very accurate and dedicated, and he only focuses on good-looking beauties. Ignore Khalifa, who has stepped into the role of secretary. Buggy looked at Bluno and expressed his thoughts. "Bluno, by the way, you have worked in Cypher Pole for so many years. Where did you go to raise the phone bugs of the world government?" Bluno froze for a moment, then nodded and said, "Of course I have." Snapped. Buggy snapped his fingers, showed a smirk and said, "Exactly. I need a batch of live phone bugs and a batch of speaker bugs. Can you find a way to get them for me?" Hearing Buggy's words, Bluno smiled after thinking about it. "No problem, Mr. Buggy. I know that the government has a lot of phone bugs like this." Having said that, he paused and then said, "But there are too many bugs on the phone, and there are guards over there, so I need someone to help." "No problem." Buggy looked at Crocodile, whose upper body was bandaged, with a smirk and said, "Old Shaw, let's go." Crocodile's mouth twitched. He thought about how crazy he was before, when he rushed towards Stussy at the beginning and got a miserable end, and then thought about how Stussy, who beat him with one move, was played with by the man in front of him at will. At that moment, Crocodile finally understood the gap between himself and the world's top players. The original restless heart and strong ambition were completely defeated by Stussy's punch. "No problem." Crocodile replied calmly. Bluno followed the voice, and he couldn't help being surprised when he saw Crocodile. Even though he'd met a lot of big shots before, even his Straw Hat Kid, Crocodile was a bit of a surprise. Mainly because of Crocodile's obedience to Lord Buggy, not at all like the Crocodile he knew. This is the former Shichibukai, also a Shichibukai with Logia Devil Fruit. Even pirates are much stronger than them. Has such a man actually been taken under by Mr. Buggy? Various thoughts flashed in his mind, and Bluno admired Buggy a little more. Immediately after he closed his eyes and thought for a while, he raised his hand and opened an air door in the air. Squeak. Soon, he and Crocodile were in it. Looking from the outside, the inside is a green space. The two didn't stay for too long. Buggy and the others saw Bluno and Crocodile coming out from the other side of the air door. Behind them there is also a layer of sand manipulated by Crocodile. Above the sand layer, there are dozens of phone bugs, loudspeaker phone bugs, and other types of phone bugs of different sizes. With the ability of the sand Crocodile, Bluno and the others almost half emptied the phone bugs in the stronghold of the world government. Seeing so many phone bugs, Buggy couldn't help laughing and said, "Ha ha ha, good, good. From this point of view, the plan can be better implemented. So, come here, and I will tell you how to use these phone bugs next." Immediately afterwards Buggy began to describe his arrangements for these phone bugs. Just after Buggy spoke about the plan, the large warship that was moving forward suddenly trembled. The violent shaking caused many people on the boat to fall. What's wrong? What happened? Could it be the Sea Kings? Impossible. This is a large warship. You won't be troubled by the Sea Kings even if you cross the comm belt. How could it be here? F*K. Look behind. The surface of the sea has risen. I'm sorry. What's going on? Soon someone discovered that on the sea surface behind their warship, the originally calm sea surface suddenly set off a huge wave with a height of 100 meters. And these huge waves are rolling towards them layer by layer. Ah. It's over, I'm going to die. Mr. 3 hugged his head and screamed. How could there be such a huge wave here? Crocodile growled sullenly. Is it artificial? How is it possible? Who can do this? Don't be kidding, Crocodile. Ivankov on the side also growled. At this time, Buggy chuckled instead and said, "That's not necessarily true, Ivan-chan. You may not have felt the power of shock fruit, but as an old opponent of the Whitebeard pirates, we're familiar with each other, aren't we, Mr. Jabba?" Ah. Not only did Jabba not show that serious expression, but he had a nostalgic smile on the contrary. That Newgate guy is in his 70s and 80s, how can he be as strong as a monster? Nani? Whitebeard? Shock fruit? Shouldn't he be in Marineford now? It's still far away, can this also affect us? Ivankov's eyeballs and tongue popped out in shock. After it was over, he shook his head frantically and said, "No, no, no, now is not the time to talk about this. The huge waves hundreds of meters high are about to overwhelm. If you don't want to solve it, the ship will really be destroyed." Click. 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 At this moment, Jabba suddenly held two giant axes and shook his neck to make his bones make a crisp sound, and walked out slowly. "Leave it to me, the battle is about to start, just to warm up." Everyone turned their heads to look at the words. Boom. 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 Before they could say anything, Jabba stepped directly on the moonwalk, blasting a few waves of air in the air and soaring into the sky. Swish. Swish. Immediately afterwards, Jabba's hands holding the two giant axes suddenly raised the orange-black armament hockey, and this hockey instantly wrapped the two giant axes. Hockey swallowed, as if the giant axes were breathing, and looked very eye-catching. Especially everyone below could feel the palpitating aura coming from those two giant axes. Coupled with Jabba's explosive muscles that are not inferior to bullet, it gives people a sense of sight of a prehistoric beast. Advanced armed color. Another advanced armed color. Crocodile's eyes twitched when he saw the radiant hockey all over Jabba's body. Another existence that can kill oneself instantly. Crocodile felt numb. When did advanced armament hockey become so cheap? Ivankov and others also looked dignified. This level of armament hockey is not just a simple high-level armed color. The previous Stussy mastered similar advanced armament hockey emission, which is basically similar to what Jabba mastered. But the breadth of the two is far from being comparable to the thickness of hockey. Stussy's advanced armament hockey can only be described as flashy, and Jabba's advanced armament hockey has a strong, thick and bottomless feeling. While everyone was thinking about this, Jabba also made moves. Drink. Looking at the hundreds of meters of ocean waves from far to near, Jabba in the sky shouted loudly, stepped on a wave of air with a bang in the air, and then the two hands on the left and right were covered with orange and black. The flowing armament hockey's axe slashed toward the approaching waves. Scoff. In the next instant, two horizontal and vertical cross-shaped slashes with a length of hundreds of meters appeared between the sky and the earth, crashing into the huge sea waves with the momentum of destroying everything. Chi-chi-chi. Boom boom boom. Between breaths, there was a shocking explosion in the distance, and then the hundreds of meters high waves directly shattered and turned into countless raindrops. Zzz. And those two cross-shaped slashes of hundreds of meters continued unabated, cutting off hundreds of layers of large waves close to their large warships before they exploded on the distant sea. Gudong. 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 Seeing this scene, the boys on the boat who came out with Ivan swallowed their saliva in horror. Lucci, Crocodile and others also had cold sweat on their foreheads at this time. This kind of powerhouse is too scary, right? Master Buggy can even subdue such a strong man? Then how terrifying his ability must be. Not to mention that his younger brothers were brainstorming again. Buggy nodded at Jabba, who came back from stepping on the moonwalk, and then turned to look at Marineford, who was faintly visible in front of him. Those huge waves that swept over were not only in their direction, but also had monstrous huge waves covering Marineford in several other directions. Boom. After Jabba landed, he didn't have the slightest thought of filling the cup, and looked in that direction with Buggy and said, "It seems that guy Newgate really put his life to the test. High Gen of this level never appeared even when he was fighting us." Redfield chuckled lightly. "In my memory, there was only one seaquake of this scale in the Valley of Gods, right? Now it seems that the Newgate guy is really good for the rocks. This move, which is only used when saving his son, also helped him once. He deserves the rocks. A move only used to save his son?" Buggy on the side twitched the corners of his mouth when he heard the words, thinking, why does this sound a bit wrong? Seeing the black line in the sky becoming more and more solid, everyone gradually became serious, and they seemed to smell the smell of gunpowder in the air. Immediately, Buggy flew up and came to the front of the warship, with his arms outstretched and white light shining in his hands. Whoosh. Puff puff. Immediately afterwards, 10 white rays of light shot out from his 10 fingers and submerged into the seawater. After Buggy silently said, "Comprehensive disintegration," the seawater within hundreds of meters around him suddenly boiled. Rise. Then, under the shocked eyes of everyone, Buggy raised his hand above the void in front of him and stretched out his hand to the seawater below. Crashing. With the sound of the water surging, the seawater within a range of hundreds of meters suddenly rose into the air, and the large warship above it was also lifted up. Ah! What's going on? Is Whitebeard shaking again? Stupid. This is Master Buggy's ability. Why are you panicking? Hey. Hey. We're flying. I don't care. Mr. Buggy is too strong, isn't he? Can such a heavy large warship be carried? It's not just this warship, look below the warship. Hiss, there is still tens of meters of seawater below the warship, plus a circle hundreds of meters around. It's as if a supergiant picked up this large warship from the sea with seawater. Lying on the side of the ship and looking down, people have an extremely shocking feeling. Even Redfield and the others were amazed when they saw this scene. Seeing that the warship had already floated tens of meters above, Buggy snapped his fingers, then turned around and waved his right hand. Let's go guys, head to the battlefield, oh. When the people below heard the words, their momentum rose and they roared. Marineford, on top of the battlefield. At this time, the battle has entered a fever pitch. Following Whitebeard's 2 punches, the monstrous waves rolled towards the mountaintops on the left and right sides of Marineford. Even though all the elite sailors from naval headquarters are on the battlefield at this time, there is still a feeling of trembling when seeing the monstrous waves hundreds of meters high. Hey, you're lying, right? How do you fight this? Monster, damn monster, it's over. Damn it. Why are we going to provoke this monster? Shut up. Why are you panicking? There are those 5 men standing behind us. As long as they are still here, we Marine can't lose. That's right. Aokiji Admiral is coming. Under the expectant eyes of all the sailors, Aokiji, who was originally sitting on the Admiral high back chair, stood up and looked at Hai-Gen, who was rolling towards the headquarters with a serious expression. Yeah, he's such a formidable old man, wouldn't it be nice to be obediently killed by us? Whoosh. Having said that, Aokiji's figure did not stop, but rose directly into the sky. After flying hundreds of meters into the sky, Aokiji opened his arms, and the cold air surged all over his body, and 2 icicles shot out from the palms of Aokiji's hands. Ice time. Immediately, Aokiji's voice sounded on the battlefield. Pooh. The 2 icicles shot out from his hands finally landed on the hundreds of meters of huge waves before they were about to fall. But those 2 icicles were no bigger than an adult's arm, and facing the huge waves hundreds of meters high was like a mayfly shaking a tree. However, in the next moment, something that shocked everyone happened. Caw. The moment a huge wave hundreds of meters high was hit by an icicle, it completely froze into an iceberg within seconds. And these 2 icebergs just stand on the left and right sides of Marineford. Hiss. Seeing this scene, everyone present took a deep breath. HMPH. Aokiji Kid. Whitebeard, who was standing on the bow of the Moby Dick, sneered when he saw this, but a look of disappointment flashed in his eyes. Surely it won't be so easy. Looking at the subordinates who were fighting on the battlefield below, Whitebeard sighed inwardly, but then his gaze became sharp again. Now that I have come here, let me pave the way for a new era. With this in mind, Whitebeard no longer cared about his injuries, and raised the unparalleled sharp knife Kong Yunki in his hand and shouted. Little ones, follow me and save Ace. Whoosh. After saying that, Whitebeard directly jumped off the Moby Dick under the excited cheers of all the pirate cadres and rushed towards the inner square of naval headquarters. Oh. Daddy's shot. Brothers, rush with Dad. Kill all these stinky Marines. Rescue Ace. Ace. Here we come. Whitebeard's departure in person immediately boosted the morale of the pirates, and Marine, who had the upper hand for a while, was directly suppressed. This made Sengoku's face darken a bit, and he shouted immediately. Bring me up. The strongest man in the world has made a move, but we Marine will definitely win the final victory. Justice must prevail. Kill. The men and horses on both sides were red-eyed, and they rushed together again in the blink of an eye. For a moment, blood splattered everywhere, and human lives were like worthless things at this moment. People kept falling down and standing up again and again. At this moment, Marineford has turned into a war machine, which is constantly stirring the flesh and blood of the personnel on both sides. Whitebeard stabbed a giant vice admiral, and his combat powers seemed to be extremely vigorous. As for the 3 admirals, only Akainu was still sitting there, but his eyes were fixed on Whitebeard. On Kizaru's side, they played soy sauce with Brother Ma. Aokiji is also playing a minigame with Diamond Josie. Compared to the fact that the subordinates on both sides were fighting desperately, the behavior of the two of them had to be said to be extremely ironic. Perhaps because of this reason, Akainu finally couldn't take it anymore after seeing Vice Admiral being knocked unconscious by Whitebeard's knife and second punch, and rushed towards Whitebeard. Canine-toothed Red Lotus. As Akainu roared, his right arm turned into a magma dog tens of meters long and bit Whitebeard. HMPH. Candlelighter. Even though Whitebeard said so, he looked dignified and did not hesitate to wave his right hand in the slightest. Haki overflowed while clenching his fist tightly, and punched Shock Fruit with a powerful force. Boom. The huge and ferocious magma doghead collided with Whitebeard's fist, but it seemed to be no longer in the same space, causing shocking waves. Boom. After less than 2 seconds of stagnation, the huge doghead directly shattered into countless pieces together with the surrounding space, and disappeared directly. Akainu, who was rushing forward, couldn't help but stagnate, and the powerful impact made Akainu's blood surge up, and his face turned red for a while. Bang bang bang. Boom boom boom. What followed was Akainu and Whitebeard fighting for their lives without holding back. However, no matter if they were Marines or pirates who were close to them, there were basically not many who could survive. So soon, no one dared to approach within a distance of 1 or 2 kilometers around the battle between the two. At the same time, on the outskirts of Marineford where no one was paying attention, floating stone slabs flew out of the sea that was not frozen by Aokiji. On these stone slabs, there are several large live phone bugs and loudspeaker phone bugs. Immediately afterwards, the large warship began to rush directly towards the interior of Marineford. As for the few pacifists who were ambushing outside, after they discovered the large flying warship, before they could make a move, several figures jumped out of the flying warship and rushed towards them. Scoff. Boom. Click. Those pacifists were either cut in half, smashed into the head with a punch, or directly turned into pieces, but they were completely destroyed in an instant. Seeing this scene, the sea soldiers of several science troops almost stared out of their eyes in horror. Just when they thought they were going to die, they found that the other party ignored them at all, but returned directly to the huge warship. Such a huge warship suddenly appeared outside Marineford Square. Even though the battlefield was burning at this time, it still attracted the attention of many powerful people. Almost in an instant, dozens of knowledgeable colors were locked here. After many people sensed the aura above the flying warship, their eyes widened in shock. Then, the people on the warship just landed on the bow of the Moby Dick. Chi chi chi. Immediately afterwards, on the spot where Whitebeard was standing before, a square platform made of golden gravel rose from the ground, and a high-backed chair formed on the top of the platform. In the next moment, under the attention of dozens of observation hockey, a figure suddenly appeared in the high-backed chair on the empty golden platform. He is wearing a white cloak, with a blue horse tail fluttering in the wind, a clown with eye-catching makeup, a pair of long legs crossed, and his hands crossed to look at Sengoku on the execution platform in front of him. The next moment, under the gaze of everyone, the man's voice spread throughout the battlefield. I'm here to end this war. I'm here to end this war. After these words turned into waves of sound and echoed in this endlessly fighting battlefield, everyone was stunned for a moment. When they looked for the sound, they saw a group of people standing under the golden platform. Then, there was a burst of uproar on the entire battlefield. Who are they? Why are these people wearing prison uniforms? Could it be that they came out of Impel Down? How is that possible? Impel Down. Wait, who is that? Ex-Crocodile. And the current Shichibukai Haishia Jinbei, damn it. Are these people coming to steal our way? No, it's impossible. You see, that guy is Monkey D. Luffy, one of the supernovas, and the king of monsters, Ivankov. They can't be from Marine. What's the situation? Who are these guys? There are a few people who look familiar. Be it the Marines or the pirates who were fighting, they all turned their attention to the Moby Dick at this moment. Even Whitebeard, who was fighting fiercely with Akainu, couldn't help but look in the direction of the Moby Dick in astonishment at this moment. After seeing the familiar figures standing at the bow, Rao Whitebeard couldn't help but gasp. He suddenly had the feeling of being attacked by dead memories. Or is he actually dead now? But soon Whitebeard came back to his senses and shouted in shock. Jabba? Bullet? Redfield? Why are you guys here? Is Lousy already in hell? What? After hearing Whitebeard's name, whether it was Akainu not far away, or Sengoku on the execution platform, and Garp below the execution platform, their eyes widened in shock, and they looked at Moby Dick in disbelief. Direction. Are you kidding me? Sengoku's face turned green when he saw the people standing on the left and right sides of the platform made of yellow sand. Garp was picking his nose carelessly at first, but after seeing a familiar Straw Hat Kid, he immediately put his hands on his forehead, his eyeballs, nose and tongue all burst out and screamed. Luffy. Luffy, like Garp, Ace, who was kneeling on the execution platform, was also shocked when he saw Luffy. Hey, are you kidding me? After a collision, Aokiji and Joes both backed away for a distance, and the latter broke out in a cold sweat after looking at the people on the Moby Dick. The situation is really not good now. A flash from Kizaru returned to the front of Admiral's seat, staring at Moby Dick, pouted, and said solemnly. How did these monsters come out? It's really scary. On the other side, Hawkeye, who was sitting leisurely in Shichibukai's position with his feet crossed, suddenly got up at this moment, his sharp eyes fixed on the man on the yellow sand high platform, and he murmured. Is this unlikely? Hey, Mihawk. What do you mean by that? Brother Ming on the side immediately noticed something wrong with Hawkeye. Look for yourself, that man on the high platform of yellow sand. After Hawkeye finished speaking, he fell silent. Doflamingo turned his head to look at the words. First he was stunned for a moment, it was strange, and then he took a few more glances. Fooferfer. Immediately, Doflamingo put his hand on his forehead and smiled lowly. Are you kidding? Am I wrong? Why is he above those people? What are you two stinky men talking about? Can you explain it to Aisha? The Empress in a purple cheongsam leaned on the big snake, frowning and staring at the two. Beep beep. At the same time, after the red light in the eyes of Bartholomew Kuma on the other side flickered for a while, he spit out words that shocked everyone. Pirate, Buggy the Clown, the bounty is 15 million Baileys. Nani? What? Bear, are you kidding me? After hearing Bartholomew Kuma's words, the Moonlight Magic Duck and the Empress looked at him in shock, and then turned their heads to stare at the man on the yellow sand high platform. At this moment, they couldn't believe what they saw. However, compared to other people's suspicion, shock and bewilderment, Akainu's side is much more straightforward. After he saw the group of people on the Moby Dick, although his face was equally shocked, he just snorted coldly, raised his hands and pointed at that person and shouted. Fake it. Let me see who you are. Great eruption. Gululu. In the next moment, Akainu's hands turned into magma, and he spewed out huge fists of magma more than 10 meters away and shot towards the direction of the Moby Dick. Seeing this scene, be it the pirates or marines around, they all had a glimmer of expectation. They want to see, what is the origin of these people? Garp, Sengoku, Aokiji, and Kizaru also stared at the group of people, as if they wanted to use them to judge whether these people were the people they remembered. Although Whitebeard didn't speak, both his eyes and observation haki were locked on the group of people. Boom boom boom. Akainu's great eruptions formed huge fists and fell from the sky a few seconds later, hitting the Moby Dick with precision. If the people above do nothing, they will be completely swallowed by the magma in a short while. HMPH. Noisy. In the next moment, there was a cold snort, and then they saw the man casually leaning on the high-backed chair on the yellow sand platform let out a soft snort, and then casually threw out more than a dozen white rays of light that were no bigger than an adult's arm. Zzz. In the next second, these white rays of light precisely hit every falling great eruption magma fist. Breakdown control. Bang bang bang. Immediately afterwards, the giant fists of great eruption magma that were more than 10 meters long suddenly burst in the air. Hush. Then it solidified and recovered between breaths, just suspended in the sky tens of meters above the Moby Dick. At the same time, the man was holding a cigar lit by a small piece of magma in his hand, and then his slightly playful voice sounded. Akainu, you are really good at lighting cigarettes, but I'm very polite and return it when I'm done. While speaking, he held a cigar in one hand and waved it casually with the other. Swish swish swish. In the next second, under the horrified eyes of everyone, the huge magma fists formed by a dozen great eruptions flew backwards and smashed towards Akainu. Seeing this scene, Akainu's expression was horrified, and he couldn't hold back his scream anymore. No, how is this possible? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Boom boom boom. No matter how Akainu yelled and couldn't believe it, the huge magma fists formed by the dozen great eruptions had already fallen towards him, smashing the hundreds of meters around Akainu into huge magma fists in the blink of an eye. The potholes formed pools of scarlet magma. And Akainu's body also disappeared over there. The occurrence of this scene also made everyone on the top battlefield understand that the appearance of those people was not a hallucination or anything. Damn it. Seeing this scene, Sengoku really panicked this time, instead of blowing wildly like Whitebeard before. Meanwhile, Moby Dick aboard. After Luffy took a deep breath excitedly, he yelled at the execution platform opposite. "I see. I'm here to save you. Although you will be unhappy, I must come." Hearing this familiar voice, Garp slapped his palms again to support his head and exclaimed in a low voice. "Luffy, you bastard." Luffy. Ace was also helpless, he didn't expect this scene to come true. At this moment, he can be said to be both relieved and worried. "Garp. Look at the good deeds you bastard has done, can your family give me a little peace of mind? I can't fix it." Sengoku stared at Garp below and gritted his teeth. Garp didn't speak hard anymore at this time, he just let out a long sigh, then changed the subject. "Sengoku, those guys. Ah. I know, the situation has become a little troublesome. Sengoku has shadows in both eyes. I just don't know what they want to do here." Just as Sengoku finished speaking, there was another commotion among the group of people on the opposite side. At this moment, everyone could see that the man who had been sitting on the high platform made of yellow sand stood up slowly at this moment. Under the tall figure, it looks very majestic against the sunlight. Under the white cloak is a white suit, procured from CP0, with the classic clown makeup, it looks very rebellious. If it wasn't for the change in this man's temperament that the marines or pirates around him couldn't recognize him, they would want to exclaim the hot man's name when they saw that face. At this moment, the man had his hands in his pockets, and the sunlight made the shadow on his cheeks looming. Then his slightly playful voice sounded in the inner and outer squares of Marineford. "Ace, my nephew, uncle, I'm here to pick you up. Whitebeard, are you too old to wield a knife? Akainu makes you so embarrassed?" It seems that saving Captain Roger's son should be left to his dear uncles. After all, the man stepped forward and stepped directly from the high platform of yellow sand, but he did not land on the deck of the Moby Dick as everyone else thought, but stood there in the air, holding his hand with one hand. He stroked the few strands of hair that were hanging down on his forehead, lifted the cloak behind his back with one hand and said with a smile. "Ha ha ha ha, the top battlefield has arrived, and a new era is coming, everyone, dance to your heart's content." Ooh. After hearing Buggy's words, hundreds of people including Ivankov roared excitedly. Mr. One raised the microphone in his hand and shouted. "Everyone, use your blood today as a tribute to our Lord Clown King's presence. Kill." In the next moment, Mr. One took the lead in the charge and jumped off the Moby Dick directly. Immediately afterwards, Luffy, Ivankov, Crocodile, Haisha Jinbei, Lucci, Kaku and other monsters rushed into the battlefield one after another. Seeing this scene, Sengoku yelled angrily, "Buggy the Clown, you've been hiding for decades just for this moment. Damn you, don't you want to be the new emperor?" Hearing this name, Whitebeard in the distance froze for a moment, then reacted, and laughed loudly. "Kula la la la, Clown Buggy, is that you? I never imagined that the little guy on Roger's boat would have grown to this point. You and that guy Shanks have become amazing guys. Although I don't know why you have been pretending until now, but for the sake of Ace, you even did not hesitate to expose your identity. Anyway, we, the Whitebeard Pirates, remember your friendship. Clown King? The name of this new emperor is very good. Ku la 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 la. Wow. When both Sengoku and Whitebeard confirmed the identity of the hot man, not only the top of the battlefield, but also the people watching the live broadcast all over the world were completely dumbfounded at the moment. Buggy the Clown. That little pirate with only 15 million Baileys? That guy turned out to be a crew member on Roger's ship. He was also at the same time as the four emperors' red-haired Shanks. So he wants to take advantage of this war between Marine and the Whitebeard pirates to become the top four emperors? Could you please stop kidding? There's no place for him in the four emperors now. Could it be that this guy is after Whitebeard's head? Maybe, this kind of man has been pretending for so long, and his plot must be serious. But both Whitebeard and Marshal Marine said that he had been hiding for decades, and he did not hesitate to expose his identity in order to save the son of the One Piece. Is Captain Buggy so powerful? God, Alvida, come and see God. I didn't expect that guy Ace to be your child, Roger. You're too out of touch. However, it's not bad to see Buggy grow up to this point. Jabba and the others are also out, ha 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 ha. I'm so happy today. Buggy, is he one step ahead of me? Have Mr. Jabba and Brother Bullet been rescued? Ha 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 ha, you are really there, Buggy. So I am relieved. Well, the Clown King, it is very suitable for your title. Since so. Kaido, don't you want to fight? Come on. Let's fight with all our strength. Damn it, Redhead. How crazy are you? Do you really want to go to war with this beast's pirates? Then. No, Master Kaido. The red-haired conquerors is too terrifying. All of our combat power is suppressed by him. If we continue to fight like this, we will suffer. We cannot fight him here. There was an uproar all over the world because of the complete exposure of Buggy's identity. However, this is only the real beginning of their terror. Lonely Red, Barry Rock Redfield, One Piece Rogers third in command, Scooper Jabba. One Piece Rogers crew, Ghost successor Douglas Bullet. One Piece Roger Navigator, Duolingo. One Piece Roger crew, Murloc Karate Master Sunbel. Cadre of the Revolutionary Army, Shemale King, Emporio Ivankov. The current Shichibukai, Hai Sha Jinbei, former Shichibukai, Sir Crocodile. As the names of the big pirates in the Buggy team were exposed, the whole world fell into horror. Holy Land Mariajoy, Pangu City, in the Five Elders meeting room. Looking at the live broadcast in front of them, the five old men were also stunned. Magellan, didn't they stop these guys? Damn. Stussy, Gabriel and Icebear are also missing. It seems that they are more or less evil, right? But it's normal, after all, the people they face are all once legends. Damn Buggy the Clown, you hide it so deep. What is this man's ambition? Is it really just to take this opportunity to reach the top of the four emperors? Who knows? I already asked Kaido to untangle the red hair, and I didn't expect it to go wrong. Damn it. These scumbags can always make big news for me. Marine is even more useless, she is a waste. The five old men roared so angry that the surrounding CP0 and God's Punishment Army all looked at each other in blank dismay. The occurrence of this situation really shocked everyone. That clown Buggy actually possessed the ability to make the legends follow him. If these people were the crew of the clown Buggy, they would be more terrifying than any four emperors group. At this time, the battle situation in Marineford finally began to change. After Crocodile left the field, Marine's high-end combat power was actually suppressed. You must know that the top players such as Redfield, Jabba, Bullet, Duolingo and Sunbel have not yet finished. And the unknown giant standing behind Buggy with a height of 7 or 8 meters has not left yet. Obviously, it can be seen that Marine's high-end combat power is somewhat insufficient. You can't really let the three admirals come over, can you? What's more, it's not so easy for the three admirals to get away now. Kizaru is also stalked by the pony Margot. There is no way for Aokiji to immediately decide the outcome with the full-strength Diamond Josie. Not to mention Whitebeard, if there is only a Kainu alone, he can fight with each other all day now. For a while, the battlefield was at a stalemate. Shichibukai, what are you still hesitating? At this time, Marine Admiral Sengoku's roar sounded. As his voice sounded, Shichibukai, who was fishing while fishing, finally moved. Surprisingly, the first one to end was the Hawkeye who was indifferent to everything. This was quite unexpected for Sengoku. When seeing Hawkeye leave the field, Garp was a little nervous. It can be said that among Marine, except for the three admirals and Sengoku, he is the one who understands this man's terrifying combat power. A man who can compete with the red-haired four emperors is completely emperor-level combat power. So, after seeing Hawkeye approaching Luffy immediately, Garp's heart ached. Seeing the terrifying sword Chi cut the battlefield to pieces. If it wasn't for the help of Ivankov, Jinbei, and Crocodile, Luffy wouldn't be seriously injured by Hawkeye now. Well, this guy is just acting after all. If you really want to kill Luffy, you don't need to stand a few kilometers away to level Luffy with a big move A. Although Buggy gave Luffy some Nika fruit development direction on the road, the current Luffy Haki is not enough, and it is impossible to open the fourth gear. Therefore, Luffy could only run away in embarrassment for a while. But even so, it showed the power of Hawkeye. With one person's power, he stopped several experts on Buggy's side, and he still seemed to be able to do a job with ease. Seeing Hawkeye's terrifying sword aura, Marines and pirates swallowed their saliva in horror. Too strong. Can Ping A, which is obviously a few kilometers away, be so terrifying? This is the world's #1 swordsman. The #1 swordsman in the world today? This aura is really good. Redfield's eyes lit up. What? Are you interested, Barry Locke? Jabba raised his eyebrows and said solemnly. This guy may be far stronger than that. Or let me go, my big axe is already hungry and thirsty. With my weaponry, it's no problem to stop him. So many strong men. Bullet licked his lips excitedly. I can do whatever. Duolingo said casually, Buggy, I'll do whatever you want. Now you are our captain. Me too. Sunbel grinned at Buggy. Redfield, Jabba and Bullet also looked over at this time. Buggy chuckled and said, Mr. Redfield and Mr. Jabba don't need to worry for the time being. Admiral is fine. I sympathize with the seniors. Let Garp and Sengoku, 2 old guys who are contemporary with you, be handed over to you. Hearing this, both of them couldn't help but turn dark. Good guy, you really think about us. As for Bullet, you go to help Josie deal with Aokiji. Duolingo, you go to help Margao entangle Kizaru, and Sunbell go and get rid of that zombie manipulating Gecko Moria. Buggy finished the arrangements one by one, then grinned and said, As for Hawkeye, leave it to me. It just so happens that my fruit ability is the nemesis of swordsmen. It doesn't matter whether he is the world's #1 swordsman or not. The San Juan Wolf on one side heard that Buggy had arranged tasks for everyone else, and after listening for a long time, it was still not his turn. He suddenly said in doubt, Hey, Captain Buggy, what about me? Ha ha ha, Juan, don't worry, help us watch the boat here. Buggy sat on Juan's shoulder, patted his cheek and said, This is an important retreat. We can't let people destroy these ships, can we do it? Hearing this, the San Juan Wolf narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, Just look at it, Captain Buggy. Hearing this, Buggy laughed and opened his arms and said, The battle is on, go guys, whoosh whoosh. Bang bang bang. Following Buggy's words, Bullet and the others rushed out one by one. And Buggy's figure also flew out of the air, and Duolingo came to their respective battlefields within a few breaths. At this time, Luffy and his group were being crushed by Hawkeye alone. Until the arrival of Buggy, Hawkeye also seemed to sense something. This time the Flat A was a bit more brutal than before. Buzz. I saw a cyan sword energy dazzling from a kilometer away. Not good. This sword energy is too powerful. Damn it, how could that Hawkeye guy be so terrifying? Crocodile, Jinbei, how did you both become Shichibukai with him? I also want to know. The gap is too big. Damn it, is this guy the one that Zoro wants to surpass? The world's #1 swordsman, he's really strong. After seeing this sword energy that was several times stronger than before, Ivankov, Crocodile, Jinbei, and Luffy also understood that this guy had been holding back his feelings before. But this sword chi was too fast. They can't hide at all. Crush it. But at this moment, a figure descended from the sky with a brilliant white light, floating above the void in front of them. Scoff. After hearing the familiar voice, Ivankov and Luffy saw the incomparable blue sword energy suddenly turn into blue-white light spots and dissipate in the air. In the next second, Hawkeye's dignified voice sounded. Buggy the Clown, is this your true strength? He he he. Buggy put his left hand in his pocket, slowly withdrew his outstretched right hand, looked at the split palm and said with a light smile, I should say that, right? Hawkeye, how on earth did you deign to be a Shichibukai? A random knife is an admiral level attack, which is really terrifying.